Wake up, will you, pal?
They need a wake-up call.
Someday this country's gonna wake up.
Wake up and smell the coffee.
I always view this show, this Black Wednesday show, as something we need like 6 hours for.
Okay.
Because like the show right before Christmas, the show, I don't know, right before New Year's, like it doesn't have the sport busyness that today and the next handful of days have. But think about it. So we have a show today. We won't talk again until Monday. Colts have a must-have game in between now and then. Pacers will play 3 games.
Yeah, 3 games, yeah.
Between now and then.
Big
we
games.
have a bucket game that couldn't have fan bases further different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, with Indiana right there on the college football playoff. Win, you're in. You're good to go.
We have Notre Dame football with a must-win game over their hated rival.
Yep.
And we have IU Purdue Butler basketball all across the country and outside of the continental U.S. with their different feast week tournaments. And we have 6 state final games on our airwaves. It's like we need 6 hours today. We need 5 hours today.
Well, do you need a 5-hour energy today? Do you want to start there? How are you feeling today? Are you okay today? That's
Kevin
what
was
I'm
the first
asking.
one in the studio.
He was, and he
That
said
was rare.
he said the last time I looked at my clock, it was 1:42 a.m. Are you okay?
Last night was a top 4 worst loss in fan history for me.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily.
Couldn't sleep?
Top 4.
Really?
Top 4. And can I vent a little? Am I allowed to vent? No one wants to hear me talk about Notre Dame basketball.
This is Notre Dame basketball. This is a November Notre Dame basketball game. Go ahead.
Again, no one wants to hear this. So, go ahead. If they do Christmas music on B at this point, go ahead and flip over.
Sure, Mariah Carey's on right now.
Please come back to us here later. Their best player, their most important player, he cannot get hurt. 280-pound man falls on his knee about 3 minutes into the game. He's got the knee propped up on the chair in street clothes for the final 35 minutes of the game. The game before Notre Dame, first off, I should start there. That game goes into overtime.
Yeah, and it was a great game, Houston, Alabama, which is a huge matchup.
So Notre Dame tipping at 10:30 turned into tipping at like 11:15.
Yeah.
Their best player gets hurt 3 minutes into the game. And it's one of those games where, like, guys that shouldn't be making shots are making shots for Notre Dame, and it's not going to last.
Right.
Like, Rutgers has got 2 top 5 picks, and Dylan Harper is very good at basketball.
What do you have, 36 last night?
I'm like, boy, that is some James Harden vibes I get watching him play as a lefty there. But Notre Dame's hanging in there. They go to overtime. Notre Dame Rutgers goes to overtime. Matt Alaco.
He was awesome.
The Bowens have a third child. Alaco Bowen might be the name. He was absolutely incredible. Reggie Miller type moments.
He was in fuego.
9 points in more like 30 seconds here. He makes a 3. Should have got fouled, by the way. Makes a 3 to tie it with, like, I don't know, let's say 15 seconds to go. Notre Dame's got a freshman in only to shoot the basketball. He never plays. He thinks they're still down. So Rutgers inbounds it, and he fouls.
Man. Oh, man. See, I did not see any of this live for people wondering.
And you get this in college
basketball. Stay up till 1 a.m. to watch Notre Dame.
You get the occasional.
I know you do.
The dude doesn't know time and score.
Oh, come on.
And he fouls.
Yeah.
And he fouls Dylan Harper. Harper, flirts with acting like he's going to miss both. He misses the first, makes the second. Alaco, 30-footer for the win right off the back iron.
And then you woke up. The Bowen household had no coffee.
No coffee in the Bowen household.
You had to stop and get coffee.
Lord knows
what a
no
mess.
coffee in this building. I
Not on this floor.
Maybe I've ordered Starbucks like 3 times in my life. I'm like, hey, what do you even order there?
Do you even have the app? They do have regular coffee. You don't have to get,
I got
caramel
regular
swirl
coffee.
and everything else. Well, I feel for you, man. I got to be honest. I woke up, and the first thing I did is I checked the score. I checked the Notre Dame score for you to know what kind of mood you were going to be in. And I didn't know they lost with their best player or one of their best players possibly tearing his ACL 3 minutes into the game Game 5.
It's no way to start your Thanksgiving holiday.
That's not a good day.
It's the triple whammy. And we all, I think, have been here in regards to fandom at some point. Do you stay up for the event? First off, that was idiotic. Like, you guys laughed at me yesterday when I said I was staying up, and you thought I was staying up for a 10:30 tip. Again, I just checked my text messages. Shane Bryant, the only other Notre Dame fan I know, because Ryan Bowen's too soft to stay up for those wee hours in the morning.
I'm with you, Ryan.
My last text to him was 1:48 in the morning.
Oh,
my God.
Oh, man. I
again,
sound like an old man. Why are we playing all these? All the good games are tipping off at like 9, 10 o'clock at night. What are we doing?
Maddie was dumbfounded. So I'm
with her.
It's the triple whammy. your best player could be out for a long time.
Right.
You stay up for a game, your team loses in overtime by 1 point. And the reason you lost by 1 point is because the freshman thought you were down and fouled.
Yeah, the foul, that's the kicker. That's the kicker. Everything else is going bad, but right at the end you think you have a chance and the freshman fouls.
Top 4 loss in my fandom.
Oh. I feel bad for
it's
you.
A rough one.
I feel my voice on edge.
We'll try to cheer you up today. We'll do as good as we can.
You guys just carry me for the next 3 hours.
We're going to have to. Well, we do have things to talk about today. Stephen Older going to join us at 8 o'clock. We'll talk to Tom Dienhart, Purdue-wise, and then Zach Osterman in the 9 o'clock hour. Since it's our final show of the week, we'll give you our Colts and Patriot predictions.
They'll be fully accurate 5 days out.
On that barn burner. And obviously, an update on Josh Downs. We'll see if we get to that as well. And then IU Purdue predictions coming up on Saturday night. KB, I know you were up watching a lot of TV last night, so I'm sure you digested some of the college football playoff stuff. I thought last night was a good night for IU football.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought SMU jumping them was not good.
Okay, well, I mean, I think they're in. I think if we talk about seeding, I think they're in. I really do.
So you're not worried about a Clemson win over South Carolina jumping them?
I'm not. I'm more interested in what happens in the Big 12 right now. Does the Big 12 potentially get shut out with BYU fading down the stretch? Right now, Arizona is in. Arizona is not promised to make
Arizona State
is not promised to make the Big 12 championship game. They probably will, and the Big 12 will probably get a team in. But I didn't think last night was too bad. I expected them to be right there at 10, and I kind of think the ACC is going to work itself out. Of course, if South Carolina beat Clemson, that would be even better for Indiana. Clemson's won that, I think, 4 out of 5 times, if I'm not mistaken. And then this afternoon, I think it's a sneaky big game between IU and U of L. IU has no non-conference schedule, and I don't think Louisville is an NCAA tournament team. If they are, they're like a last 4 in type of team, but it's still a quality team, and then you would play like a Gonzaga or Arizona, which would really help your non-conference schedule. So some interesting things, obviously, today, but I didn't think last night was a bad night for IU. I mean, it could have been a little bit better, but, I mean, you got blown out. You got blown out by Ohio State. Your strength of schedule is what it is. So, being 10, I think they're in. It's about seeding, but I do think they're in.
Yeah, they're the final at-large team as we wake up here on this Wednesday morning, and I think that's where the ACC uncertainty, I don't know how to view it. Like, there's no way the ACC gets the same number of bids as the Big Ten, right?
No. I mean, it hasn't been respected until now, right?
So that's where I'm a little confused by this, because play this out. And again, Miami goes to Syracuse, SMU hosts Cal, Clemson hosts South Carolina. If all 3 of those ACC teams win, now we get to how will the committee view conference championship games? That, to me, is the biggest unknown in all of this. If SMU beats Miami, let's say, by a field goal in the ACC championship game, first off, are we knocking teams for championship game losses?
It's a great question.
Because there's a lot of SEC teams that won't play in a conference championship game.
Oh, yeah.
That aren't going to get that additional loss versus somebody that will play in that SEC title game, and they're going to be like, wait a minute, just because we earned the right to play in that game, because we lose it, we get punished, but the team that doesn't make it to Atlanta, they don't get punished at all? So that, I think, is a committee question. I don't think Ward Manuel really answered it at all last night when they asked him about it. So that's where I look at these rankings right now and think, okay, if SMU beats Miami, is Miami really going to fall behind Indiana? And Clemson, theoretically, is about to get, if they win, and again, that's a big if.
Yeah.
But if they beat South Carolina on Saturday,
it's a good win.
That's
a very good win.
Quality win over a team right now that's ranked, what, top 15, top 20, something like that. So, I don't know. I thought SMU above Indiana was kind of the one where there's a little pause. Now, the great news for Indiana fans is this. College football's had weekly chaos. So, even Tennessee winning at Vandy isn't a lock this weekend. Or Alabama beating Auburn in the Iron Bowl is not a lock. I mean, hell, USC and Notre Dame. I mean, if you're an IU football fan, you want USC to beat Notre Dame.
Well, Miami goes on the road and they play Syracuse.
Sure.
So Syracuse is 8-3.
Like, none of these games are locks. But I think for Indiana right now, what you want to feel good about better about your chances, I should say, is this. I think you want South Carolina to beat Clemson. and I think you want Texas A&M to definitely lose. Texas A&M is a bid stealer. We hear that phrase a lot in the NCAA tournament process. Certainly Indiana State, sadly, received several of those last March. But Texas A&M is not getting in the tournament at all. But they host Texas Saturday night. The winner of that goes to the SEC title game. Obviously, the winner of the SEC title game gets an automatic bid. So Texas A&M is 2 wins away, albeit 2 difficult games, from stealing a bid. So you want Texas A&M to lose. So
yes,
if I can boil it down to kind of 2 Indiana-related items, I think that's what you want. You want some chaos in the ACC to happen. Particularly, you want Clemson to lose to South Carolina. And then you want Texas to take care of Texas A&M on Saturday night.
Yeah, and listen, I don't think Miami has had some choking moments.
Miami at Syracuse is a sneaky game.
It's just a sneaky 3:30 ESPN game that you need to watch. You know, I'm a big fan of Heather Dennett. She was on all the TVs yesterday when all this came out. She also wrote a couple pieces up at ESPN.com, and she is forceful that Indiana is in if they beat Purdue. Now, at the 7:30 segment, we can talk more about this. It makes... To me, if I'm a Purdue fan, it makes Saturday, this is all I have on Saturday. All you have, if you're a Purdue fan, is to ruin everything for Indiana. Because all Indiana has to do is beat lowly Purdue, who's going to be 1-10, very well should be 1-11 on the season. And you ruin everything. You ruin their biggest moment ever in program history. I think what's also interesting is if Indiana gets bumped down with some of the things that you're talking about, with some of the Big 12 stuff, with some of the ACC stuff, with some of the Texas A&M stuff, if they get bumped down, I think what would hurt them there, KB, is they would end up playing in Ohio State or Oregon in the first round. And to me, right now, and again, it's just right now, they have Penn State. And if you even want to look at it, potentially Notre Dame, and no offense to you, but I view Ohio State and Oregon as a step above right now, especially Penn State.
Well,
and we can see with Notre Dame.
That's the Tom Allen Bowl. How dare you disparage the Tom Allen Bowl like that?
It's a great point. It would make it juicy. So I think Indiana is in fine shape considering you went to Columbus and got your hat handed to you.
Yeah, I don't know. The SMU above them is a hair worrisome. Now, again, college football chaos will probably occur on Saturday, but there is just, I think, a little bit of an uncertainty to it all.
But Boise was behind them, right? I believe Boise was behind them, which is a good thing.
Boise was, 11th. But, again, as the final at-large, if Clemson beats South Carolina, wouldn't you envision Clemson jumping them?
It's a great question. I don't know. I'm saying I have no idea.
I still find it hard to believe the ACC would
ACC
theoretically get the same amount of bids as the Big Ten.
I would be stunned given that we thought they were a 1-bid league, and now we're looking at them potentially being a 2-bid league. I just have no idea. To me, the most interesting thing is BYU. I mean, there's no guarantee, or not BYU, Arizona State, there's no guarantee that someone in the Big 12 has to make the college football playoff. And can you imagine the moaning and groaning from the Big 12 if they end up not having a team represented?
Spot would go to Tulane right now?
It very well could. Yeah, that's a possibility. Arizona State has Arizona this weekend. Arizona's a 4-win football team. But like you said, and I think it's spot on, bleep has happened. Bleep happens in college football. There's going to be a team or two, whether it's Texas or whether it's the Clemson-South Carolina game, Miami-Syracuse. It could be Notre Dame. There are going to be a couple games that happen where teams are going to be right there on the edge of making the college football playoff, and they don't make it.
And I just want it on record, and you guys can hold me to this. If Notre Dame loses Saturday, they don't deserve to be in.
Unfortunately, you're right. South Carolina or USC is a very middling team.
I would like to wear a different colored hat and answer that question differently, but I'm going to be the bigger man here on this Wednesday morning.
You're really down in the dumps this morning.
Turn all your Notre Dame stuff
chimes in here. Ben goes, I can honestly say I've learned more about Notre Dame basketball in the last 3 years of my life than in the other 42. I feel strangely connected to that team, all thanks to Kevin Bowen.
Yeah, you know what? That happens in sports talk radio.
Ben, I don't know if I should apologize or
it's a little bit. It's a little bit of a niche team because when you think of Notre Dame, obviously you think of football.
I had some dude tweet at me last night. Let me see if I can find his name.
Okay.
And I thought
was it Tony Footlong?
I thought it was was a bot. I'm like, I've never had
I'll be
anyone.
jealous if he's in your DMs now.
What did it say? Eddie 99234, like a bunch of numbers.
Shout out to Brent. When
Okay.
Marcus Burton went down, Brent goes, "We can never have nice things," and I thought he was a bot, and I'm scrambling to tweet back at him like, "Do you think Brent's real?"
I thought, well,
You want to be friends?
I guess he is. The only reason I don't feel that way is, working in Louisville for so long, those Louisville Notre Dame games. I mean, every
epic.
single one of them went
Epic.
to, and
Yeah.
Mark, every single one of them went to 7 overtimes.
Oh, yeah, of
Every
course.
single
I was
one
at
of
the
the
5 overtime.
Oh,
game.
were you? Every single one of those games. I was at a bar, drank way too much.
Pacers going for their first 3-game win streak of the year. Maybe their biggest favorite of the year. 10 points on that. Portland extremely banged up. I have no idea on the Colts starting offensive line for this week. I don't know how many times I've said that in the last couple of years, so we can hit on that as well. Plenty to get to here on this Wednesday morning.
Yeah, busy Wednesday before we get you into your Thanksgiving break. Appreciate you waking up with us. Your morning check down. We'll give you a little Mike Woodson sound. I know you just cannot wait for that big game for IU. And then, of course, all the news and scores from overnight. Appreciate you waking up with us. Wake up call right here on The Fan on this Wednesday.
Action inside Hinkle Fieldhouse Tuesday, December 3rd against Eastern Illinois. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
We'll have you covered bucket-wise. Zach Osterman from the Star. He's actually down in the Bahamas. He'll join us. A lot to get to with him. Kurt Cignetti, the official numbers on that contract. Tom Dienhart from Gold and Black coming up at 8:30. Is Ryan Walters indeed returning for next season? What would that look like? So we'll get both sides of that, and certainly plenty of Colts talk upcoming as well. Andy Sweeney, it's a busy sports day and weekend. I have no idea where you're going to begin on the morning check-in.
Well, let's start with some Mike Woodson sound. How does that sound? Woody talking to the
noon
media
ball today,
yesterday.
Right?
Noon basketball today, Indiana and Louisville. You favored by 2.5 in this game. To me, and I know we're going to talk about it next segment, this is a sneaky big game for Indiana. A, to not lose, and B, to face someone better like Gonzaga later in the tournament.
It's not because Louisville is a great win. It's because the opportunities you will get if you win.
Yeah, and if you lose, and Louisville isn't an NCAA tournament team, obviously, you know how that's going to look as well. So Mike Woodson previewing the game yesterday. Take a listen.
Talented team, well coached, guys that can make the long ball, got bigs that are active, a lot of talent, and this will be a big test for our ball club to see where we are as a team. And I'm just kind of anxious to get to the game to see where we are.
Like I said, that one at high noon today. As for yesterday, Kansas over Duke 75-72. UConn's lost 2 straight now, KB. UConn loses to Colorado and Tad Boyle yesterday, 73-72. Auburn over UNC 85-72. I won't give you all the final scores. Iowa State beat Dayton, Alabama in overtime. Like we mentioned, 85-80 over Houston. Oregon over number 20, Texas A&M. A&M just 4-2 on the season. Creighton just 4-2 as well. Blown out by San Diego State, 71-53 yesterday. And Memphis, the Maui men, if you will, Memphis over Michigan State yesterday.
Now, I've told you that I tried to talk Maddie into going to the Lahaina Civic Center on her honeymoon.
Sure.
She shockingly said no to that idea. UConn now in the 7th place game of the Maui tournament. Why I love Maui and that tournament so much, I saw this yesterday on Twitter. The next event at the Lahaina Civic Center after the Maui tournament.
Is it like a pottery convention or something like that?
Holiday bingo blast coming up 2 Thursdays from now, 9 a.m. to noon for residents 55 and older on the island there. Good news, on the bottom of the flyer it says refreshments will be provided.
Oh, they're provided. Why can only old people play bingo? I don't like that. Why can't you be under 55 years old and play a little bit of bingo? Come on.
It's not a millennial game at all.
Can I ask
who
you
wants
guys
these baking sheets?
Can I ask you guys something? And this is probably a bigger topic. Why is everyone so obsessed with Dan Hurley being an absolute freak show? He's always done this. I mean, blew up at the officials yet again, but now it seems like everyone in the national media is focusing on Dan Hurley. It's like he's always been the villain. He's always been crazy.
Yeah, but
the
no
guy's
one
got crazy eyes,
I know,
man.
but no one does it as much as him.
He does it every game.
You get the random, Bill Self blows up or Izzo does Izzo things, but it's the nightly occurrence, I think, from Dan Hurley. By the way, Indiana, just a reminder for fans, they'll do 3 games in 3 days.
Yes, they will.
A lot of these tournaments, sometimes there's an off day in there. It'll be 3 in 3 days for the Hoosiers. I believe if they win or lose, it'd be in the afternoon tomorrow as well, noon or 2:30. So just a little planning for your Thursday Thanksgiving around the Hoosiers.
Dan Hurley is kind of like the Marvel villain, like in the movies. Like
totally.
Early on, he's got the glasses. Like, oh, he's very unassuming. Nothing's gonna happen. And then all of a sudden, like he gets rage, and all of a sudden, like, whoa.
I loved Joey Molinaro tweeted this yesterday of he is the dad of your friend that you feel like you're cool with, and he would kind of slip you a beer, but you're so afraid that he's going to go ballistic at some point.
Dude, I had a friend
you leave
just
the
like
shoes
this.
on
Man, you're so
inside the
spot
house
on.
a little bit too long,
It's
and
so
he just
good.
goes, or you park in the driveway instead of on the street, and he just goes nuts.
Like, this guy's cool, but he's on edge all the time.
Everyone's watching it. Everyone's watching him now. It's going to be one of the main stories of college basketball all season if he continues down this road, which he's going to.
Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight. Pacers going for 3 in a row for the first time all season. And again, I know they're banged up, but they continue to catch some injury breaks. Portland's injury report. Jeremy Grant, doubtful. Donovan Clingan, Thibault, and Robert Williams all out. DeAndre Ayton, questionable. Scoot Henderson, questionable for Portland. So if you look at this line, you say, wait, are the Pacers favored by 10? Well, yeah, there's a reason for that. Again, very important to continue to get a win tonight and Friday because December is a whole lot of road for the Pacers. 9 of 12 on the road here upcoming. So the Pacers trying to get to 9 and 10 on the year tonight. Again, that's 7 o'clock. It'll be 8 o'clock for the tree lighting game Friday.
College football, we've talked a lot about it. Right now, Indiana, by the College Football Committee, ranked number 10. Okay, they're number 10, but they're 11 in the bracket. If the playoffs were to start tomorrow, they would get Penn State in the 11-6 matchup and then get Miami. Obviously, we've talked about it. Miami and SMU, will that work itself out? Indiana could drop down to 12. That is a possibility. If that's the case, they most likely then in round one would get Oregon or Ohio State, whoever wins the Big Ten. So Indiana is still in. I still feel like they are a tournament team, obviously, but they need to beat Purdue. And just to make sure, I'd beat Purdue by about 35-plus points on Saturday.
Well, yeah, I would say 65, honestly, if you're Kurt Cignetti. If IU had lost to Ohio State on September 23rd, would they be comfortably in?
A little bit more, probably. Yeah, I mean, we do that. We act like losses, whether it's in September or November, like it doesn't matter, but it does. It does matter.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, you think that, don't you? I mean, losing.
Sure.
What if Notre Dame lost to NIU last weekend?
I know. Trust me.
But you lost 2 months ago, so people forgot about it. You're a different team.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah,
As if last night wasn't bad enough for my fandom here. All right, Colts get back to work today. Again, it'll be a walkthrough Wednesday for them. Patriots and Colts both in the same schedule, and that is 13 straight games to start the year. Neither of them have had their bye week. Do we believe in the teams still struggle after playing the Lions?
Well, we're about to find out. Now, a couple teams have bucked the trend.
Yes, recently. Now,
a couple have.
I bring that up to say this. I would say Sunday might have been the most injured game the Colts have had all season.
Okay, probably. I mean, yeah, it's one of them.
Doolin,
for sure.
Downs, Pittman, Bortolini. I mean, that's 4 different injuries in the game.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I mean, that's a lot for this football team this season. So, again, New England, theoretically they're on the same boat in terms of playing 13 straight games. The Colts continue to be a slight favorite in this one. We'll try to win in Foxborough for the first time since 2006. They've lost 7 straight there. It'll be Spiro Ditas and company on CBS, 1 o'clock Sunday.
You got anything else? You got anything else over there?
Last thing I was just going to mention was IHSA. Again, state finals coming up all weekend long. We'll have the even classes starting Friday, again, 11 a.m., 3 and 7. Odd classes on Saturday. And certainly a last name and really a first name as well. It's very familiar to these parts. Kevin Wright back as the head coach of the Carmel Greyhounds there. He was at IMG previously on Tom Allen's staff as the tight ends coach there at Indiana. Carmel, despite their enrollment, it's been a little surprising to see them not have very good seasons really at all here. As of late, Kevin Wright taking the Carmel job.
I almost asked Kyle Neddenrip about that yesterday. I almost said, hey, who's going to take the job? He could have broken the news.
I feel like he tweeted the story right when he hung up with us.
I don't know. Oh, did he tweet the story, the feel-good story?
I was going to say he teased something else with us. And
okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention, too, is the North Carolina job any good? Mac Brown
It's a great question. How good is that North Carolina job?
And we brought this up when Kurt Cignetti,
I don't know.
Pre-Kurt Cignetti extension. It's
yeah.
I think Pat Forty was on with us. It was like, wait, I think the Indiana job's better than the North Carolina job.
Well, we had that conversation because we were thinking of jobs
of the conferences you're in.
We were thinking of jobs that could be open that could want a guy like Kirk Cignetti. And North Carolina was one of those jobs. Lo and behold, they fire Mac Brown yesterday. He's going to coach the final game against State. We'll see if he coaches in the bowl game. So I think it's a good job. Some people overrate that job. I'm not willing to say it's a really good job. I'm saying it's a fine job. It's a good job. You're in a winnable conference in the ACC, but you're not in the Big Ten or ACC, and you've just been okay. And they've just hired okay coaches the last decade.
I had to laugh. I saw this on Twitter. Do you remember last year when Texas A&M tried to pursue Dan Campbell?
Oh, yeah.
Well, have you seen who North Carolina?
No.
Who they're trying to pluck from the NFL?
No, I've not seen this.
Ben Johnson, the OC for the Lions, is a North Carolina grad.
Okay.
That'd be a swerve.
A name to watch there, John Sumrall. I forget where he's at. Is he at Tulane now? He's kind of a hot name.
Is he related to Pat?
He is. I don't believe he is. All right, we're way late. We got to take a break. Coming up on the other side, why is today's IU game so vital, really, for both teams, including the Hoosiers, plus the latest on the Colts and Patriots. We'll do it next. Appreciate you waking up with us on this Wednesday.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Safe travels to everybody out there. It does sound like could get a hair dicey here in the state, maybe a little bit north of here, coming up later today into tomorrow. If you want the most random Colts nugget to throw on your cousin at Thanksgiving.
Okay, let's go. Let's hear
I
it.
think I've got one for you.
Okay, give me a nugget here on this Wednesday.
Anthony Richardson rushing for 61 yards on Sunday. That is the most rushing yards for a Colts quarterback since when?
Oh, goodness. I'm going to go one of the Andrew Luck years.
You certainly don't think of the Colts having a bunch of Michael Vick
well, no.
type running backs,
The answer better not be Manning. I can't believe he ever broke one off. So it's going to be an Andrew Luck year. I just don't know what year that would be.
The wishbone with Phil Rivers wasn't a thing
right.
during the COVID year.
Matt Ryan can't move as quick as I can, so probably not him either.
I didn't believe it when I saw it.
Okay.
I had to look it up. I have no memory of this game. It was the first year that I covered the Colts. It was not Andrew Luck, a man that will be cheering for quite the upset Saturday night. Curtis Painter.
Oh, my goodness.
In 2011, had 7 carries for 79 yards against the Titans.
I'm looking it up right now.
Now, again, the Colts were 2-14 that year.
Right, it wasn't good. I'm
they
looking at it.
finally went to Orlovsky and won a couple games. I think to myself, I have no memory. So I dug deep last night. Now, again, when you're up until 1:48 in the morning, you are digging deep. So there I am waiting for the Notre Dame game to start, and I'm in a rabbit hole looking at the Curtis Painter box score from this Titans game.
I'm looking at it right now.
Probably no one cares about this. He had 8 rushing yards for the game with 5 minutes to go. And then all of a sudden, the man took off. He had runs of 24, 17, 17, and 13 in the final 5 minutes of the game. Curtis Painter, 79 rushing yards in a 2011 loss to the Tennessee Titans.
That's unbelievable. Now, the Colts players are guys, obviously, you think of Donald Brown, Dallas Clark, Garcon, Austin Collie, Reggie Wayne still on that team. But there are some names on this Titans team. Javon Ringer, you remember him?
Oh, my gosh, yeah,
Matt
Michigan State,
Hasselbeck.
he was great.
Damian Williams was their leading receiver in that game, 4 for 60, his long of 27. Curtis Painter, that's a good nugget.
How about
That's
that?
a very good nugget.
I am very confused who the Colts will start on their offensive line on Sunday. I think I can, write in Sharpie 2 names. I know I can write in Sharpie 2 names. I should probably preface that. Quentin Nelson at left guard, Braden Smith at right tackle. Now, we probably should mention those 2 guys right now, Andy.
Yeah, they've been penalty machines.
11 penalties each on the season. The next Colt with the most penalties is 5.
Wow.
Those 2 have 11.
Who is it?
Jalen Jones has 5.
Is it Jalen Jones?
Then
Okay.
you got to go to Ashton Doolin with 3. No one else has more than 2.
And Jalen Jones, I think, has the most difficult job on the
Sure,
defense.
I mean, corner,
that's my
yeah,
opinion.
I mean,
corner, you're on the number 1 wide receiver. That's difficult. Sure.
Nelson and Braden Smith have 11 penalties each. I was stunned when I saw that number. Nelson, I knew that was the number, but Braden seems like he's just kind of won every week. So again, Nelson at left guard, Braden Smith at right tackle. But let's play out the rest of the line. Is Bernard Ryman back? He's been a little iffy with that knee injury. He's now missed a couple games. If not, it's Matt Gonzalez at left tackle again, the rookie. At center, it's rare for guys to progress through concussion protocol in a week, so in all likelihood, Danny Pinter. Speaking of Ball State, chirp there. That would be your third-string center, getting his first NFL action on offense in 2 years.
Can you say Danny Pinter without the chirp? You even did it on Twitter earlier this week. You put up Danny Pinter, and you put up in parentheses chirp.
I love it. Colleen Bowen, a Ball State grad, would love it. By the way, I saw in the YouTube chat earlier, Evan, our diehard Ball State grad from Cluster Truck, he wants Bryant Haynes, the IU defensive coordinator, former Ball State player.
Okay.
So now we get into did Kurt Signetti's assistant coach pool increase? Does that keep Bryant Haynes in Bloomington?
God, okay.
Or does the Ball State job attractive enough?
I'm going to have to do some research on Bryant Haynes, but
we
fair
don't have
enough.
to get into that
fair
today,
enough, Evan.
but
okay.
Nonetheless,
I haven't seen Evan around the neighborhood lately either. I've been walking the dogs. Peering in his windows. He lives like a street and a half.
He's in Irvington,
is he
not?
A block and a half from me. I haven't seen him. Of course, it's cold outside and everyone hibernates now for the next 6 months.
Back at Black Acre tonight.
Exactly.
And then right guard, do you bench Dalton Tucker?
Well, I mean, that's the question.
So that would
to me, that's the question.
Again, do you go to Mark Lewinsky, who has not been on an NFL team since March? Where is he at 32 years old? So, Andy, I can't recall a week where I've gotten to Wednesday and literally there's uncertainty at 3 of the 5 spots on the O-line, and the 2 that are locked in, they're the two most penalized guys in the football team by far this season.
Yeah,
it's a wild time for the Colts O-line.
Yeah, and I don't mind saying it. Coming up at 9 o'clock, we'll give our picks for whatever they're worth, although you've been very good on at least who's going to win the game. I think the Colts are going to win this game. I think at 9 o'clock, I'm going to ultimately, KB, pick them to win the game. But the offensive line stuff scares me, and there's no reason why I should believe, you're just not going to progress through concussion protocol. Then you go with Ryman, you go with the knee injury there. I mean, those are two guys that I think have to be very iffy. And then you just throw in Josh Downs, and then, I don't mind throwing in as well Michael Pittman still fighting stuff. Anthony Richardson, a guy we're not talking about now, is seemingly this week or even parts of last week because the way he's played, that's still going to be a question mark as well. And the matter of fact is that all of these are mini playoff / elimination games.
Oh, sure.
I mean, they have to go, the Colts have to at least go 4-1, and we've talked about it. One of the ones that they need to win or have to win, the Denver Broncos. If you go 4-1, you give yourself a chance at 9-8. You're going to need help. You're going to need help from Denver. You're going to need help from the Chargers, and ultimately now,
Miami.
Yeah, and ultimately now 9 might not be enough. But I think winning 5 straight games, or ultimately be what 6 or what would it be? It'd be 5 straight games.
They haven't won 5 straight since.
It'd be 6 out of 7 or 5 straight games. I just don't see that. I mean, I think this team's not going to make the playoffs, but to have a chance, they got to go 4-1. I mean, if we walk in here on Monday, you talk about a big sports weekend, and we're talking about a Colts team going to New England and losing to a rookie quarterback in Drake May and a team that has been called out consistently by their head coach. Boy, that's going to be a thud, and it's going to be one of those where, all the attention then the final month of the season will truly be on, hey, how does Anthony Richardson look?
Yesterday I tweeted out Jonathan Taylor's carries each of the last 2 weeks.
I saw that as a very long tweet.
I know, and I was like, this is stupid. It was so long.
It was, but I think it grabbed people's attention.
And that's what I was just trying. Frankly, I think it's a very jarring tweet to look at. So if you look at his 35 carries over the last 2 weeks, 26 of them have gone for 3 yards or less. And like one of the 14-yard carries, Andy, was 3rd and 20 a couple weeks ago, just a give-up play. So it's like, he has been such an inefficient runner. That's how a lot of these teams grade run plays. It's like, well, 3rd and 1, if you get 2 yards, that's an efficient run.
Right.
You don't have to get 4 or 5. And if you look at his efficiency, it's been really bad, even with Anthony Richardson here over recent weeks. So I think that's mainly rooted in the offensive line, particularly the interior. And I don't know, this might be too nerdy of a question, but is Taylor a better runner when his quarterback's under center versus in the shotgun?
Interesting. It's a good question. It feels like every shotgun run goes for 2 yards up the middle.
Does it not?
It feels like they're always in 2nd and 8.
And let's be honest,
every
Paul
single
Chryst,
time.
Wisconsin was not in the shotgun very often,
Well,
right?
That's fair enough. Yeah.
So, and even, Colts teams with some of these recent quarterbacks, they weren't a heavy shotgun team. So I'm trying to make sense of it right now. Why is he so inefficient in his carries? Because this team will go nowhere in the final 5 weeks of the season if Jonathan Taylor continues to be as inefficient of a runner as he has been.
Well, think about it, too, with Jonathan Taylor. And listen, Chris Ballard said this, and he's not the only one. I thought it would be the case as well. We all thought Jonathan Taylor would have this big year. If it doesn't get going here in the next few games, He's not going to have the big year.
Yeah, I was dead wrong. I thought he would have a Barkley, Derrick Henry type year.
Yeah, I thought he would, too. I thought he would have a huge year, up over 1,300 yards. I thought he would catch the ball a little bit more than he would. I thought early on the season you saw that.
How about the flea flicker attempt?
Boy, I tell you that. We haven't talked enough about that play. How does he throw it right into the ground? What was he doing?
Max Bowen in the backyard. Hey, man, will you toss me the turkey?
Let me ask you this, and then we'll move to Indiana here in a second. Stephen Holder going to join us in about 15 minutes. Before the season and even early season, it wasn't too much make the playoffs. It was more, what about Anthony Richardson? We are on the precipice of moving the playoffs aside and just focusing on the quarterback play. Like, remember that conversation before the year? Like, it was almost like the win-loss record was a little bit secondary, and I think we've lost that because now they're falling out of, they're going to need to win and they're going to need some help to get into the postseason. It feels like now I personally am almost reverting back to, if they lose one of these next couple games, we'll move the win-loss record out of the way. We'll deal with Chris Ballard in a second, and we're just going to focus on the quarterback because that's what this season was supposed to be about. And we still have time to get a lot of data on Anthony Richardson.
I think what's so frustrating is this, though, Andy. Of the 7 losses, I would say probably 1 to 2 of them Richardson deserves a lot of blame for. But if you go back to Houston week 1, I mean, that's defense. That's your run defense. You go back to 2 of those losses, it's Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
I don't even look at the 2 recent weeks and blame Richardson that much.
No, not at all. Not last week.
So that's where I think probably the frustrating element to Colts fans. It's like, wait a minute. I mean, Richardson has certainly had bad moments this season, undoubtedly, and some of them have come in losses. But the majority of your losses are not due to his whatever inaccuracy, turnover machine. Again, there are moments, but not, I would say, the majority of those 7 losses. And again, last year you won 9. Largely with Gardner Minshew. So plenty more on the Colts. Again, as Andy said, Stephen Holder going to join us coming up at 8. We'll give our picks 9 o'clock. Could the Colts have their first 2-score win of the season, or is that a ludicrous thought here in week 13?
Yeah, I would settle down on that.
Indiana, again, reiterate for our audience here the importance of today at noon. By the way, Beth Mowens, Debbie Antonelli on the call, noon today, ESPN for Indiana and Louisville.
Yeah, okay, so, this is one of those tricky games because Indiana basketball, and I disagree with this, especially with the team he has, but it's whatever. Mike Woodson, this tournament this weekend, the next 3 days are big for IU basketball because the majority of the strength of schedule, and yes, I'm going to strength of schedule for the non-con, could come from this weekend. And I truly believe that. And so if you're Indiana, you need to beat Louisville. You need to beat Louisville, of course, just to get the win. You need to beat them because Louisville is, I'm not sold, an NCAA tournament team. I think they'll be one of those teams that'll make a nice run in the NIT and it'll set them up for the next year. And people say, okay, Pat Kelsey has things going. So you don't want to lose to a team that I personally do not believe is going to be an NCAA tournament team. And then also you want to win these games so you get tougher games, so you can, potentially play a Gonzaga, Arizona, those types of games, because again, your non-con strength of schedule is predicated on this weekend if you're Indiana. It just is. You're going to take some losses in the Big Ten, but you need to win this weekend. And it's an interesting game because it's a battle of 2 different styles. While Mike Woodson has improved the guards, while I think he has said, I want to go a little bit faster, I want to shoot a few more threes and be a better, higher percentage making those 3-pointers, that's what Louisville's going to do. Louisville's going to try to run. They're going to try to shoot threes. Their bigs are going to try to bring Ballo, specifically Big Ballo, as Woody called him yesterday, away from the basket. So it's contrasting styles. And last year's game was ugly, of course. Kenny Payne was the coach at Louisville. But it's contrasting styles, and you don't need to lose a game to a non-NCAA team. You want to set yourself up in this tournament to play good teams so your strength of schedule in the non-con isn't garbage.
Wisconsin legend Chucky Hepburn on Louisville, so you'll see that name for Indiana fans. Just a reminder, Purdue tomorrow, 3 o'clock. They are out in San Diego. That's NC State. Butler tomorrow night, Northwestern. So you could get a spaced-out Thanksgiving Day tomorrow of Indiana at noon down in the Bahamas, their second game. Purdue at 3, Butler at 7, and all 3 of those teams would then again play on Friday. So, again, everybody all around the U.S., outside of the continental U.S., Butler out in Phoenix. But that's the lay of the land there for those 3 teams. And just a reminder for those that missed it last night, the college football rankings, Indiana currently the final at-large team. They fell to 10th in the rankings. That turns into 11 in the bracket. It would be the Tom Allen Bowl. Penn State hosting Indiana, 6-11. Notre Dame would host
great.
SMU. That is 7-seeded Notre Dame against 10-seeded SMU. If you want mythical lines, I've got them for you.
Oh, yeah. Give me the mythical lines. Go ahead.
Ohio State hosting Arizona State, Favored by 3 touchdowns.
I was going to say 17.5, so it's every bit of it's
20
every bit of
and a
21.
half.
Oh, wow.
Winner got Boise in that one. Georgia, Tennessee. In Athens.
Okay, in Athens. Boy, I think that's close. I don't think it's 6.5. I'm going to say 3.5, Georgia.
Me? 5.
Touchdown there for Georgia.
Wow.
Penn State, Indiana from Happy Valley.
Yeah, Penn State. I'm going to say 7.5.
Penn State.
Touchdown with a little extra.
Penn State 8.
I think this is actually a good draw for Indiana.
Oh, that I would love if they played Penn State.
Winner gets Miami.
Hey, listen, James
Right?
Franklin doesn't win big games.
Yep.
To me, line it up. I would love that game. I'm not saying Indiana would win, but if you're telling me, hey, you got a shot to win and move on, Penn State would be the team.
That is an 8.5-point
Okay.
spread.
Good job.
Mythical
Look at
there.
this.
Mark Dykton, do you have
He's
one
the
more in you?
bookmaker.
Sure, let's
Notre
go.
Dame hosting SMU.
Ooh.
Oh, boy. It's got to be double figures. I'll go 10.5.
Let's say 11.5.
Gosh, you guys think Notre Dame's really good. 8.5
Okay.
on that.
Well, we're trying to butter you up after
Yeah.
this first segment.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, KB's upset. Best player towards
Lost in the
ACL,
sauce
maybe.
this morning.
Top 4 sport fandom loss last night.
Well, what are the other 3? Is the Bush
Notre Dame, Kentucky Elite 8.
Yep.
And Brian Anderson was on the call last night, and he was on the call of that Elite 8
Of
game.
course he
so
was.
I knew, right when I heard his voice, I said, go to bed, Kevin.
Really?
Oh.
Was he
100%.
really?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. No one
Boy,
wants to hear me rant.
You're a sick individual to remember that.
You are.
No one wants to hear me rant and rave. I will say this. Speaking of sick individuals, you know what would be real sick?
What's that?
If I stayed up till 12:30 tonight for their tip. 12:30 Eastern time tonight.
You got to get a nap in today, don't you?
That's supposed to be their tip.
Get
And again,
another
that is an
Starbucks.
approximate tip time.
Who plays before?
Bama, Rutgers.
Oh, so it's Bama.
It's going overtime again.
That game's going to be 89-89 going
so
to overtime.
Notre Dame without
Yeah.
their point guard.
Ugh.
And God bless Logan Imes. Shout out to the Zionsville native. He played his ass off last night. But him bringing up the ball against Houston,
Good luck. Houston's 3-2.
gosh, that would be. I don't know if I have that in me.
Houston's favored by 15.5 in this game. I'm looking at it right now.
very fair.
Yeah. All right, coming up on the other side, the latest
I need
on
more
the Colts. Yeah, you're gonna need a nap too. Stephen Older from ESPN. He joins us next.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Well, our next guest, he is on a bit, I think, of a fandom island when it comes to Saturday. If you are a fan of the Indiana football Hoosiers, you want to see Stephen Holder's Hurricanes go down at Syracuse. For some reason, when I see Miami-Syracuse, I have like a vivid memory of Donovan McNabb at the Carrier Dome. I don't know why, but that image is just like standing out to me.
Yeah, and I can't remember. They renamed it a year or two ago. I can't remember what it's named.
It'll always be the Carrier Dome.
It'll always be the Carrier Dome, 100%.
Let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline right now. And again, his Hurricanes currently with a bye in the college football playoff. They would play the winner of Penn State, Indiana. Steven, are you worried at all about a trip to Syracuse for your Hurricanes to end the regular season?
Yes. Yes. They have not earned the right to just rubber stamp anything. So, yeah, I mean, look, that's and honestly, that is college football in 2024.
Sure.
I think that is the takeaway for me for this season is like everything we thought we were used to. It's no longer true. I mean, the NIL era. I know that's not why you called me, but this is I have been thinking about this. The NIL era. The realignment, I mean, nothing is the same. This is a new world, and we have to reorder our thinking about college football in terms of who should beat who. None of that matters anymore. It's just win. Point differential, I mean, who cares? Just win.
There is – I can't recall a year, and Andy, feel free. This much parity. And I get that Oregon and Ohio State probably have started to put themselves on a bit of a pedestal, but, I mean – Texas, theoretically the best team in the SEC, and, look at their schedule and look at their close games.
Well, I think that's it. Just to add to the discussion, the SEC, you're not as scared of the SEC this year as you have been other years, and it's obviously Texas's first year in the conference. Steven, I got to be honest, I hope Miami wins. I am terrified for you on Saturday. I'm terrified going to that sleepy-ass place in Syracuse. They got a quarterback who's pretty good. Miami spits the bit a couple times during the season. If I'm a Hurricane fan on Saturday, I'm terrified. Win by 1 point and move on and get out of town.
Look, their defense is awful, and that's just the reality. They can score. I mean, they're the number one offense in the country, so that ain't a problem. Okay, the problem is getting off the field, and that's just it. I mean, look, there's not a lot of dominant defenses in college to begin with, but you've got to be able to get off the field against the likes of Wake Forest. Otherwise, what are we even talking about, right? So that's my issue, and that's why if you're a Canes fan, you don't sleep well at night right now.
A Wake Forest stray here on this Thanksgiving Eve from Stephen Holder, ESPN, with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline.
Sorry to the legions of Demon Deacon fans on the line. But,
sure, yeah. Shout out to Lauren McIntyre and her volleyball career at Wake Forest. Stephen, all right, walk through today for the Colts. Week 13, it's 13 straight games. I find a bit odd I'm starting here with you, but what will the starting offensive line look like on Sunday for the Colts?
Well, it could be scary. I think the big issue is Bernard Raymond at left tackle. Is he going to be able to play? He's missed, 2 games, I believe? And that was a problem. That is beginning to be a problem. I thought that he had a pretty obvious limp when we saw him late last week rehabbing. So I don't know where he's at now, so this would be 4 or 5 days later. But I'm not assuming that he's back. If he's not, then that continues to be an issue. But I do think that we anticipated that they would miss Will Fries. I don't think we realized how much they would miss Will Fries at right guard. That, I think, has been a bigger problem than I ever anticipated, which is a compliment to him. Will Fries is out with that season-ending injury, a really nasty leg injury. But the bottom line is that is an issue now. And then you've got, obviously, a rookie at center as well, with Ryan Kelly out. And I just think over time, between the communication and just really the just in some cases the downgrades that you have there, those two things combined, they have created a big issue. And it's really started to cascade, I think, on Anthony Richardson. So I guess I didn't answer who's the starting offensive line, but I guess it would be potentially last week's minus Bordellini and Pinter at center instead of him.
And then we'll see about right guard. Do they bench Dalton Tucker, who I think has had some regression? Do we see a Mark Glowinski in there? I brought this up to Andy a little bit earlier, Steven. I was looking at the penalty numbers for the Colts. Two guys have more than 5 penalties this season. Quentin Nelson has 11 and Braden Smith has 11.
That's awful. Yeah, that's awful. And it can't be your two most veteran guys. Well, Ryan Kelly's obviously the most veteran, but he's been in and out of the lineup. Those are your two most veteran available linemen right now. And the Braden Smith stuff is interesting because part of his problem, I think, is clearly health. He's not healthy. He may never again be healthy. I mean, he's had this knee issue for a while, and I just think the knee is what it is at this point. I don't think this is a week-to-week thing. This is his knee, so that puts you at a disadvantage when you're losing matchups. You hold things like that, right? So that tends to happen. Now, Quentin Nelson, I got nothing. The only thing I could say is that part of what's happening with him is as he now is surrounded by rookies on either side, that starts to degrade your performance, and you're maybe worrying about other responsibilities rather than your own or in addition to your own, and that's never good, right? So I think that's kind of what's happening there. It's not an excuse, but I just think it's a possible explanation for what's going on with Quentin Nelson, particularly in recent weeks.
Stephen Holder, ESPN.com, with us on the Payless Liquors hotline on this Wednesday. You know, kind of sticking in the same vein, the offense, and you think of the offensive line, you also think of the running game. Jonathan Taylor, the last 2 games with Anthony Richardson, just 2.6 yards per carry. We were even, and KB mentioned, maybe he's better not running totally out of the shotgun all the time. Why do you think they haven't been able to truly get JT going, especially the last 2 weeks?
I think the big thing is just too much penetration through that offensive line. So it frankly is largely an offensive line issue. 2.6 yards per carry after there was a stretch. I just wrote this. Let me see if I can get my stats right. There was a stretch of, I believe, 6 games before that where Jonathan Taylor had 100-yard games in 4 out of his 6 appearances. I think he had a couple of weeks off there with injury in between. But my point is, prior to recent weeks, more often than not, he's had a 100-yard game when he's been on the field. So, I mean, he has looked great this year, generally speaking. I think the issue is not a Jonathan Taylor issue. Is he completely healthy? I don't know. Maybe not. I think they've been messing with that ankle from time to time. We've seen him get it retaped and such. But I really think that offensive line is as big a problem as it's been really at any point in the last few years. I mean, we've gotten used to that reliability from the offensive line outside of maybe 2022, where no one was good. But it's an issue right now, and it's going to affect everything that they do. Anthony Richardson is the only reason they haven't led the NFL in sacks the last couple of weeks. Okay,
without a doubt.
Clear about that.
Yeah. No.
Okay?
I mean, he's erased. In the last 2 weeks, Stephen, how many has he erased? 7 at least?
Easily.
6, 7, 8?
Easily. I mean, I don't know how the guy does it. Look, this has nothing to do with whether he's going to be a great quarterback in the long term. We're just talking specifically about his ability to fend off these sacks, because there would have been a ton of them. I mean, he's carrying defensive linemen on his back and getting the ball off. I mean, shouldn't have to do that, okay? And to be clear, I think sometimes we wonder, is the quarterback holding the ball? Is that a factor? Well, I looked that up. And look at, for example, this past Sunday against Detroit, he had a faster time to throw stat. And if you don't know what that means as a listener, that means the time between the snap and the actual throw or sack. His time was, I think, the second fastest of the season for him. It was faster than Jared Goff and faster than the league average. So he was really good, and still was getting besieged back there by the defensive line, of the Detroit Lions. So this is on the offensive line, the way I see it.
Again, Stephen Holder with us here from ESPN. Colts get back to work today. It'll be a walkthrough, Week 13 coming up on Sunday. Colts and Patriots from Foxborough. Steven, when Chris Ballard and Frank Reich signed those extensions a couple years ago during training camp, it was through 2026 for Ballard. At times I'm thinking, how much should a 5-game sample size maybe outweigh, 7+ years of body of work? But I bring all that up to say this. How much do you think the final 5 games matter to Jim Irsay in evaluating Chris Ballard's future here?
I do think they matter in terms of optics. And optics, the reason optics matter is because they matter to the fans, and whether we should care about that, I don't know. That's a question for an individual, but maybe you have to be more pragmatic when you're talking about making decisions that dictate the future of a franchise. But I really think the last 5 games, this is probably a better answer. The last 5 games, I think, will help us characterize what this season really has been, because I think right now it's hard to do that. Has this been a successful season? I don't think so. I think overall you'd have to say no, it was not successful. Now, was it cataclysmic? I don't say that. I wouldn't say that, but this is not a good season right now. They can change the characterization of the season, and that can certainly have an impact on a lot of people's future, whether it be leadership, players, what have you. So I think these games matter a lot. I mean, we're talking about, what is it now, 2 playoff appearances in the past, I think, 8 or 9 seasons. I mean, that's just not good enough. It's just not. There is no standard where that's good enough. And if they miss it again, I mean, that's what we're talking about. And that's how you are judged in this league. With the playoffs expanding during that time as well to 7 in each conference.
Well, I mean, even to add to it, Steven, this would be the last thing is, I mean, it was all Lions fans in attendance on Sunday, and you've had that happen 3-4 times. And I know it's circumstances. These teams don't get to play in Indy. It's a cheaper ticket. It's a close drive. But, we don't know what Jim Irsay thinks about the thousands of Detroit Lions fans doing Jared Goff chants throughout the entire game. Jared Goff is being chanted in your stadium. Stephen Holder, ESPN. What does the food plate look like for Stephen Holder on Thursday?
Well, do the turkey. Now, I normally will put the turkey, we'll normally smoke a turkey, but didn't make preparations for that this year. So I think we're just going to do the standard turkey in the oven. But I would say turkey, definitely the collard greens. We're talking about, now, there's a difference. There's stuffing and then there's dressing. Mm-hmm. Okay? Like, there's a big difference. And if you don't know the difference, then we can't be friends. But there is a difference. So we have dressing. We do not have stuffing. That is not allowed. And then I would say definitely the mac and cheese. So look, my wife's family, their lineage is Central Georgia. So you know what we're talking about here, right? So it's a Southern Thanksgiving, which is fine with me.
What's the process for smoking a turkey? Like how early does your attention start with that?
So the good thing is I have a very unique smoker that I got years ago that I don't know how to even explain it. It's a device where you put the turkey inside of this cylinder, or you put any meat inside of this cylinder on a hook or on a stand, and you kind of just throw it on there, and then on the outside you use the match light, and it just heats it up so the fire never touches it. But it gets super hot inside this closed cylinder. It just looks like it's just a metal cylinder. It doesn't look like any sort of cooking device you probably have ever seen in terms of barbecue or grilling. So it's really cool, and it's all self-contained. I don't have to do anything. I just put it in there. It goes about 2.5 hours, and we're done.
Wow, that's not bad at all.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
I know people that are waking up at 4 a.m.
Right.
to start a
That's
smoke.
what I was envisioning. I'm like, yeah. Macy's Day Parade is setting up, and Stephen Holder's out in the backyard getting the smoker going.
Because if that's what it took, we would not be smoking a turkey.
Amen.
I care.
Amen.
I care, but not that much.
Stephen, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you get to spend some time with the family before the trip to Foxborough. And as always, we really appreciate these Wednesday combos.
All right, guys. Same, and happy holidays to you and yours.
Stephen Holder right there on the Payless Liquors hotline.
Is the offensive line going to be good enough to win this game?
Well, I mean, that's kind of why
I'm starting to be convinced maybe it's not.
Again, I've kind of harped on that today. Now, the thing about New England is I think in recent years when New England's offense has been terrible, their defense has been pretty good, though.
Sure. They had Matthew Judon and everybody else, right?
They haven't been pretty good this year.
No, they haven't been.
So, New England might be worse than they were in Germany last season. I know that sounds weird to say, but defensively, I think they certainly are. I don't know. Maybe Drake May. I'm giving him not enough credit there. I know May struggled last week, but I think he's had a few rookie flashes that give some people hope. But defensively, they're not very good. And I also would say this, and boys, I can't name any of them. Can you guys name 6 Patriots?
No, I can't.
Mac Jones, Ramondre Stevenson.
Mac Jones
Mac
is
Jones,
in Jacksonville.
He's
not Mac Jones.
He's a starter.
I'm sorry.
Drake May. Jacoby Brissett.
Yes.
Stevenson, Antonio Gibson.
And
they
again,
still Douglas at wide receiver.
You guys are fantasy football idiots, so that's the only reason why you guys are naming any of them.
We're not naming any of the guys in the trenches.
Name me a Patriot offensive lineman.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Name me a Patriot defender.
Is Matt Light still there? I'm kidding.
This is one of the darkest days in Boston sports history.
Kyle Duggar, I guess, is still around. But they're just an obscure football team.
They have a very random
wide receiver.
They have a very random roster. Well, they have Bourne.
Douglas.
Yeah, Douglas is there.
Who's their kicker?
Is Hunter Henry still a tight end? I believe it's Joey Slive or what. Again, they're a weird team. Now, Drake May can make some plays with his legs, and the Colts have had 2 straight games against pretty statue-esque quarterbacks in Aaron Rodgers at this point of his career and Jared Goff. So that is something to note on that end. They have been pretty good against these rookie quarterbacks. They're 5-1 against them the last 2 years. Of course, C.J. Stroud being the one in the season finale last year. But, yeah, this Patriots team, man, it is...
Well, they're a full rebuild. I know they're mad at the coaching staff and Gerard Mayo, but it's like you guys knew that you were tearing this down. I don't know. To me, I'm like, you guys knew that you were going to be like a 3-win team, a 4-win team. I think the other thing besides the offensive line will be, of course, Anthony Richardson. I think he did build on some of the stuff from the Jets game. We've been through that. You can't look at the box score, what there are factors that went into the game against the Lions. And so does he continue the upward trend? I think that's something that we'll watch. And then, listen, I know there are injuries, but the defense for the Colts is not decimated. They won the game in Germany because of the defense, right? Am I wrong? It was 10-6. You had the early touchdown by Jonathan Taylor, and then it was just a lot of defense. To me, this
what a horrific game that was.
It was a horrific game.
The highlight was the crowd singing Country Roads and Isaiah McKenzie dancing to it.
And then, of course, we ruined that by sending Machine Gun Kelly this past year to lead the crowd in.
I thought you were going to say
Country
Isaiah
Roads,
McKenzie getting busted for whatever the hell he did a few weeks later.
That wasn't good either. But, to me, this defense... This is a game where the Colts defense, the offense does enough, and the defense should have to win this game. Rookie quarterback, random roster, bad team, cold weather, go on the road. You're not decimated. The offensive line's decimated. You're not decimated on that defensive side. They need to go win this game because of the defense.
It's the easiest schedule in the NFL to close out the season. Teams 17-40. That's the combined record of Colts opponents here to close out the year. If you want to play the quarterback game, Drake May, bye week, Bo Nix, Will Levis, Thomas DeVito, Trevor Lawrence.
Or Drew Lock. DeVito might not play on Thursday. He might be injured.
Even saying Trevor Lawrence in week 17, I kind of feel, or week 18, I kind of feel like could that be Mac Jones. So that is your glass half full. Granted, the last time the Colts won 5 straight was with Andrew Luck at center. In 2018, those 5 quarterbacks, Derek Anderson, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, Blake Bortles, and Ryan Tannehill.
Right, the who's who.
Mark, you might want to look this up. Whenever I think of Blake Bortles, remember the interview he did where the girl went to his house? Is like, what do you do when you wake up? He's like, I wake up and I take a pee.
Yep.
You guys
I do remember that.
That's all
I've never related to an athlete more.
And Blake Bortles was a half away from making the Super Bowl and winning in New England.
No, he was
against Tom Brady.
like 10 minutes away.
He was 10 minutes away
with like 10 minutes to go in Foxborough.
Like it was actually going to happen.
By the way, I peed about 6 times during the Notre Dame game last night.
Did you really? Were you drinking anything?
Just so nervous. It was pathetic.
Oh, it wasn't alcohol or coffee or anything else. It was nerves.
No. I had one drink last night about 8 o'clock, and then I'm like, you know what? Let's just pound some water. And it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
My fandom last night, it was a look in the mirror moment.
Yeah. I mean, given that you have to work early in the morning, it's not like you had today off.
Yeah,
you had to work early, a full day.
The only other Notre Dame fan I know outside of Ryan Bowen, and I questioned his fandom by going to bed early.
So what time
last
did
night.
he fall asleep?
Oh, he's like, well, this Alabama-Houston game's going to overtime. I can't stay up.
He sounds like me.
I'm like, that's the softest thing I've ever heard.
It is
so
soft.
Shane Bryan and I are texting back and forth, the only other Notre Dame basketball fan I know.
Right.
And he goes, you guys doing reruns tomorrow for the show? I'm like, no, man. We're actually going to do it live.
We're doing a best of Rick Carlisle.
I'm still up
2 months ago.
And the game goes into overtime, and I'm still up. And
What would you do if you weren't playing football?
If I wasn't playing football, working construction, ripping cigs.
That's Bortles?
That's Bortles.
Working construction and ripping cigs.
Oh, man.
Who was the Jags' best skill player on that team? Is that Leonard Fournette?
Yeah,
young Leonard Fournette?
It was probably young Lenny. I'm trying to think who was even a wide receiver for them. I'm blanking. It's killing me. Who was a wide receiver? Was Mercedes Lewis a tight end for that team?
I mean, he's still playing, so yeah, probably.
Probably
I was about to say Keenan McCardell.
No, that's too far. That's too far in the Wayback Machine. Keenan McCardell, he was Brunell's guy, right? If I'm not mistaken. Man, that's killing me. Who would
Doug Marrone at head coach? Was that the head coach?
Where's Doug Marrone? I feel like he's an analyst somewhere.
Yeah, he's got to be. He was a Nick Saban analyst at some point.
I also feel like we looked this up at some point earlier this year when they faced. We all thought, hey, where's Doug Marrone?
Mark, go ahead and look that up. Again, we'll get the bucket side of things upcoming here. We'll do Purdue at 8:30, Indiana at 9:30. It sounds like Ryan Walters is returning. I hate to say this, but why? And we'll get more into that here upcoming in about 5 minutes. Tom Dienhart from Golden Black going to join us. Zach Osterman from the Bahamas at 9:30. Mark, did you find the receiver?
Alan Hearns.
Oh, boy.
Marquise Lee.
Allen Robinson, right, too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's when Robinson was really good.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yannick Ngakoue was just a boy back then. Calais Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, they had a
Paul
D-line.
Puslesny. I haven't thought of that name in a long time.
Man, Puslesny, what a name.
Jalen Ramsey.
All right, Andy Sweeney, go ahead and lead us off in a check down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. The Dogs return to action inside Hinkle Fieldhouse Tuesday, December 3rd against Eastern Illinois. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Yeah, coming up at noon, it's Indiana and Louisville basketball. It's the Bad Boy Mowers battle for Atlantis. Indiana favored by 2.5 in this game. They need to win this one so they can go face some of the big boys and get that strength of schedule up and try to get some wins in the non-con. Big Ballo, that's what Woody calls his center, averaging 10 and 7 on the year. Here's Mike Woodson on his center, what he needs to do coming up later today.
Over the last 3 years, I mean, we've had that with Ware, we had it with Trace Jackson, and now we got it with Big Ballo, and it cleans up a lot of mistakes from a defensive standpoint that we might have around him. And we don't like putting all the pressure on him to get all the rebounds and block shots and plug the hole, but that's what I expect big guys to do, and that was the whole reason for bringing him over, and I think he's responded really well for us.
Again,
Let's kick some ass.
Again, noon today, Indiana favored by 2.5. You're over under 153.5.
They'll be calling me Big Bowen when I head to the couch tomorrow at about 6:30 after my second plate.
Got to take that nap.
Reminder, Indiana will be noon or 2:30 tomorrow. So similar time frame here in the Bahamas, 3 games in 3 days. Purdue out in San Diego tomorrow, Butler in Phoenix. All right, tonight, inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Pacers go for their first 3-game win streak of the year. It is a banged-up Portland Trailblazers team. Jeremy Grant, doubtful. Donovan Clingan, remember Donovan Clingan from UConn?
Yeah.
He is not going to play in this game. Scoot Henderson, DeAndre Ayton, questionable for this one. So there's a reason why the Pacers are favored by 10. Again, it'll be 7 o'clock tonight. The Detroit Pistons, Jay Nivey off his game winner from the other night. 8 o'clock Friday for the Pacers. Obviously, the tree lighting game on that one, and then it's a whole lot of road games after that for Rick Carlisle's bunch.
College football playoffs, Indiana coming in at number 10 last night in the college football playoff rankings. Because of the way they seed things, they're actually the 11 seed And if the playoffs were to start tomorrow, Indiana would go on the road and face Penn State, and then the winner of that would go and play Oregon. We talked about this at 7 o'clock. I tend to think Indiana is still very safe. It's all about seeding at this point. The higher seed, obviously, the lower team that they'll play, you don't want to face, in my estimation, in Oregon, Ohio State in that first round. You probably aren't winning that game. But Indiana, number 10, they are the 11 seed, and today they would face Penn State.
A reminder, no bye weeks in the NFL here in Week 13. The reason for that is they want a lot of Sunday games with all of the Thanksgiving and Black Friday action. So Thanksgiving slate, Bears at Lions, 12:30 tomorrow. Giants, Cowboys, 4:30. Just literally hit me in the head with a turkey if I've got to watch that. Dolphins, Packers, the nightcap, and then our Black Friday Amazon game, Raiders, Chiefs. That is Aiden O'Connell.
Remember when Black Friday used to just be Black Friday, and now it's an entire week or two of online sales?
I feel like it used to be like
I mean, come on.
Did it used to be like Texas A&M at 3:30? Am I imagining things? Or the Egg Bowl, maybe?
Yeah, I think they had Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Isn't that where the
Friday
Isn't
game?
that where the guy mimicked peeing like a dog? Was that Elijah Moore?
Yeah, and he got
penalized and they lost the game.
Or I'm like envisioning like Iowa, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Maybe used to be like a Friday 3:30 game.
Well, I'm just saying more. It used to be you went and you fought someone at Best Buy over a 30-inch television. I mean, whatever happened to the good old days? Now everything's online.
Oh, trust me.
Who's going to go to Target and fist fight over over a TV or
Trust
something?
me, this is America. We will still have one or two of those.
We'll find a way. Yeah, you're probably right. Let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, why keep Ryan Walters and how can Purdue at least keep this baby close on Saturday night? Tom Dienhart, he joins us next here on The Fan on this Wednesday.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I thought for a second Mark Dykton was playing this for Purdue fans. Like, this is what they're going to listen to at their tailgate on Saturday night in Bloomington.
No, the greatest Thanksgiving halftime show
I totally
of
forgot.
all time.
What year was that?
I don't know.
It
should be every year.
Yeah, it should be every year. Early 2000s. I know it's Cowboys. That's all I know.
We needed this Thanksgiving more than any other.
You
if
better
we have to
believe
go
it.
rush DeVito tomorrow at 4:30.
I don't know who's even. It's 2001. Creed Thanksgiving
that
halftime.
long ago?
Revisiting the iconic 2001 performance. Sporting News posted it 27 minutes ago.
Unbelievable.
You're getting Shabuzi at Bears Lions halftime.
Okay.
You're getting Laney Wilson for Cowboys Giants, and then Lindsey Sterling for Dolphins Packers.
Oh,
Shabuzi's going to tear it up.
I was going to say, I will be happy at the 12:30 game on that end. All right, Saturday night in Bloomington, a 4-touchdown underdog, and probably more of the attention turns to after the game. Our next guest, Tom Dienhart, great work for Gold and Black here on the On3 Network, joins us here. Tom, thank you for the time. Happy early Thanksgiving to you.
Yeah, likewise. Always gets here before I'm ready for it. But, yeah, just a fun time for football fans. A lot going on just across the entire sports landscape in November. It's a fun month.
I think I start here in all seriousness before we get to the elephant in the room. And I think the answer a few years ago would have been like, well, you hope the other team gets COVID. Purdue wins on Saturday if what happens?
What was that again?
If Purdue win. What a dumb statement that I just said out loud. Purdue wins on Saturday if what happens, and maybe it is the whole Indiana team gets COVID.
I remember 2020. That was crazy. But, yeah, I tell you what, it's going to take, like, Indiana probably just beating itself. A lot of turnovers, probably 3 to 4 turnovers. I always think if you're going to pull an upset, too, you're going to need an unconventional touchdown, like a special team score or a defensive score, scoop and score a pick six or something. And I think you got to try to control the ball, too. You got to have some type of a running game, keep it away from Indiana for extended stretches. So, I mean, I guess the cocktail, the recipe's out there. And can Purdue pull it off, though? I don't know, guys. You guys know. You've seen this season. The odds are extremely long. It looks like what the point spread's pushed up towards, I think, close to 30 now.
Yeah, it's 29. Yeah, it was 28, but now it's up to 29. Yeah, this is what I said, Tom, yesterday, that, you know, in these different games, you can find a pathway that you could win a game. I don't see a pathway that Purdue wins other than what you said. And it's more about Indiana just being a goof. What have you heard with Ryan Walters? Will he be back? And if so, can he build a new staff if he might be a lame duck coach for 1 year? What do you make of the turmoil there with Ryan Walters and the coaching staff?
Turmoil is a good word for it. I tell you what, everything right now, the lean is he's coming back. Of course, the staff would be revised. There'd be new coordinators on both sides of the ball, of course. And those coordinators would obviously have a say in shaping the rest of the staff. I don't think it's going to be a case where all 10 assistant coaches would be replaced, but the staff would be heavily altered. So that's the lean right now. And as you can imagine, the fan base is beside itself, jumping off their roofs and whatnot. And so we'll see. But I will say this, too. There is still the specter of the entire deck being cleared, too, in West Lafayette, of Ryan Walters losing his job. So I think that's still very much on the table. But I think right now, 50-50, I think that it's a little beyond 50% from coming back. But like I said, just stay tuned. The next, 5, 6, 7 days are going to be very interesting, I think.
Kenny, is Tom Dienhart. Great stuff, Gold and Black, and again, the On3 Network. More on that, Tom. How much is the lack of a public statement from Purdue something that has been curious to you? And then on the flip side of that, Mike Babinski, their athletic director, I don't know contractually where he's at, but I think, people are saying, is he nearing retirement? Is he just going to ride off into the sunset here with Walters, and then whatever, a new AD would make some hire? Feel free to touch any or all of that.
He told our site about, 3 or 4 weeks ago that money wasn't going to be an issue if it came to make any type of a change. And I will say this, though. When people say it's not about the money, sometimes it is about the money. The buyout's over $9 million for Walters. But on top of that, as you guys know, as listeners know, coming up this next school year is going to be revenue sharing, which the institutions will be on the hook for over $20 million, as well as a brand new expense. So, yeah, you have those two economic factors, the buyout and pending revenue sharing. Then you mentioned Mike Bobinski's tenure. How much longer is he going to work? I don't think it's any secret that he's a short timer. Maybe another year. I don't know, maybe 2 years. Regardless, typically, right? If you're Bobinski, you wouldn't want to fire a coach, hire somebody, then retire, then hand that coach over to your new AD. Typically, you like your AD to hire your head coach. So is that part of this, too? Is that part of why Walters would be retained? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I think maybe it is. So there's a lot of different dynamics that are in play here that are really going to dictate the future of Brian Walters, it sounds like.
Again, signing day, December 4th. Portal opens December 9th. I assume, Tom, by noon on Sunday, you expect something of a public announcement from Purdue, whether it be retention, staff changes, firing, something. And again, based off what you've said so far, it sounds like a retention and staff changes, but you would assume something pretty quickly would happen given those dates.
It has to, doesn't it? I mean, logic dictates. The clock is ticking. You mentioned it's coming, a week from today, right? It's signing day.
Yeah.
Purdue told me they are going to have a press conference. So there's going to be somebody standing at a podium on Wednesday talking about whatever's left of the 2025 recruiting class. But, yeah, then the portal, even bigger sense of urgency on December 9th, that Monday. So, yeah, you would think Sunday, Monday, will we just get a statement emailed? We're retaining Ryan Walters and we're working on reassembling the staff. I think whatever you do, I think we have to hear from Bobinski behind the podium and explain himself, especially if Walters is coming back. I think fans would want more than just a statement. So, yeah, it's like I said, I'm like you. I'm trying to figure this out. Are we going to hear Sunday or Monday? But like you said, the sooner the better with these signing days coming up here.
That's the voice. Tom Dienhart joining us here, goldenblack.com on 3 Network. He joins us, Payless Liquors Hotline. Last one, I'm just going to combine a couple things here. How different do you think the Walters discussion would be? And again, I think he's going to win one game this year. I think he's 1-11. If Indiana were a 6-win team, and then on top of it, I think Cignetti will try to run the score up on Purdue on Saturday if he can. If he can score 55, I think Tommy's going to score 55.
I would, wouldn't you? I mean,
he has to.
It's about style points. They're trying to get a college football playoff bid. I know they're still in the bracket, but there's some people still think that, hey, man, if this is a close game, IE could still get wedged out by the SEC Mafia and all the ESPN people. So you're right. I mean, he's going to want to lay it on. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, what happens Saturday at 7 p.m. And yeah, with Ryan Walters, and if IU was a 6-6 team, I don't know, guys. What's going on in Bloomington certainly has just magnified the despair in West Lafayette. But I just think with the way Purdue's looked this year, regardless of how IU's looked, the way Purdue has looked has been an abomination. I think that in and of itself would be enough to cause all this outrage, for all this scrutiny to be on Ryan Walters right now, guys. They haven't just lost games. They've been blown out. And I know they played a very tough schedule, but a lot of times they just have not really looked competitive at all. And it all really started with that Notre Dame game, 66-7. I mean, that was your giant red flag. And on it's gone since then. But, guys, really, it's not Ohio State, Michigan, or the Ohio State game. It wasn't the Oregon game. It wasn't the Penn State game. It's how Purdue did against those peer programs. Still losing to Oregon State, still losing to Nebraska, losing to Northwestern and Michigan State. Those are the games you wanted to judge Purdue on, and they still failed those tests too.
Yeah, and that Notre Dame game coming off the bye week, too. I kind of think back on that and just the historical nature to that. Tom, always enjoy hearing your insight. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. I know it's a busy, busy time, so thanks for making a little bit of time for us.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Happy Thanksgiving to you and to all the Naptown listeners. Take care and stay in touch.
Shout out to the Naptown. Tom Dienhart right there, Payless Liquors Hotline. Andy Sweeney, if Ryan Walters is at the podium on Wednesday, it'll be a quick press conference. 5 commits. That's what he has now left in the 2025 class. Speaking of the Naptown, all 5 from the state of Indiana.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you clear the deck, or mostly clear the deck, except for Walters, which coordinator is going to uproot his family?
It's quite the commitment.
And go there for, basically a lame duck coach. I just don't know. The AD angle's interesting. I mean, there's a bunch of things. You mentioned the Notre Dame game. They have had great fan support. I mean, I've covered bad football teams as you have. I mean, look at Indiana over the years where you're a terrible team. No one is in attendance. These are huge atmospheres.
It's
that they've had.
amazing fan support. I'm stunned.
It's the most stunning thing that we don't talk about is that they are packing basically that stadium.
Their average attendance was like 59,000.
For a team that has just been
they lost
dreadful.
by 59 points to Notre Dame.
If they replace Walters, they got to go offensive guy, and they got to go find a quarterback. Offensive guy, quarterback. I mean, you look in these games, 7, 10, 6, 0, 20, 0, 10, 17.
38-year-old first-time head coach, he deserves 3 years. Any part of that?
Oh, I think Purdue is very much in the business of not firing a coach after 2 years. But this is so bad. Does it trump? If you won 3 games or 4 games and was competitive in some of these games, it would be a no-brainer. He would be back.
The lack of competitiveness. And to be fair, you were spot on. You were all over this at the start of the year.
The schedule's so difficult.
From a win-loss standpoint. I don't know if you thought it'd be the magnitude of this.
No, I thought they would win 3 games.
Yeah, you were definitely on the under.
The only game they're going to win, Indiana State's 4-8. This year. That's going to end up being probably their only win.
FIU gets COVID.
I know. Let's take a break. Ryan Day said something. Let's make it our sound of the day. We'll do it next here. It's The Fan on a Wednesday.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Boy, every time I hear this JMV promo for today, John will be up at Brothers in Broad Ripple. Like, this was night of the year for Kevin Bowen 10 years ago.
Dude, I'm so with
and
you.
And that's where we started. We would be at Brothers in Broad Ripple.
Okay.
We'd walk, 50 feet north to Casbah. I would think the roof would cave in the Casbah basement every time I was down there. Never forget the bartender. He always had his Indomitian Sioux Lions jersey on.
Okay.
Give him, a Sioux, thinking he'd give me a free shot. I don't think that ever happened. Then you make the walk, another 50 feet north of there, the walk of death up the steps to Red Room. Maybe Rock Lobster in the back door to cap the night. You hear the siren. Boy, to think you couldn't pay me any amount of money. Any amount of money. I mean, I barely made it through the Notre Dame game
Well, I was about
night.
to say, you stayed up to 2 a.m. and then you had to be in here for work. You got to take a nap at some point like an old man. Mm-hmm. You're not going to make it. It is funny. It's like 9:30, and there'll be like people put on Twitter, this is the time I was getting ready to go out, and now I'm basically in bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and that's so true. And this is one of the nights it's the truest of all.
Were you
is a Wednesday.
Black Wednesday goer outer?
Yeah, for sure. 1,000%, or a party or something. Yeah, something was always going on.
I did it a few times, and then I was like, I think I'm retiring from this game.
Yeah, the anticipation and the hype, I felt like, was quickly matched with the, when am I going to retire from this on a Thursday morning?
Well, and then, like, in my case, like, I would be out of town, like, it'd be at my parents' house. So you're going to the bar, and then you start seeing the people from high school that maybe basically never moved on.
Well, that's exactly right.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, is this their place I want to be right now? Like, I don't mind seeing some people.
I feel like had so many great moments and then so many look in the mirror moments.
Yeah.
Which, again, some could say, well, Kevin, you have a look in the mirror moment for staying up till 1:48 in the morning and watching Notre Dame basketball lose by 1 because the freshman fouled thinking you were still down late.
Oh, goodness, and they play at midnight tonight. There's 2 games that are going to tip off after 12:30 Eastern
what are we
time today.
doing?
I don't know why college – was I yelling about this during the break
or
on air? Why does college – it's the only sport that does this on a continuous basis that after 9 o'clock Eastern time, your best games are tipping off, whether it's this, whether it's the national title game, whether it's the Champions Classic. It makes no sense. No one else does this. College
Kansas
football
Duke
doesn't do
last
it.
night.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that? 9:30?
NBA doesn't do it. NFL doesn't do it. College football doesn't do it. Softball doesn't do it. Literally nobody does it. Nobody does it.
All right, I didn't have softball on the bingo card. By the way, shout out to Flory Badunga last night. Some nice minutes for him as Kansas needed it. Hunter Dickinson got ejected.
Yeah, I saw that. By the way, not to add on to your bad news, but the Dodgers got Blake Snell. So, the Reds might not be their year. I was thinking, Mark, that the Reds and Cubs, this was going to be their year, but the Dodgers go out and they spend $150 million.
Just play this Ryan Day audio because it makes me a little better that our head football coach in South Bend is not just a certified psycho.
All right, sound of the day.
It's the sound of the day.
Here we go.
Welcome on the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy.
Of all coach audio we've ever played on the show, this might be the most psychotic clip I've ever heard.
Yeah, I found this. You saw it as well from Tim Hall in Columbus. They're the flagship there for the Buckeyes. This is 10 seconds of Ryan Day talking about losing the Michigan game many years to Jim Harbaugh.
We felt what it's like to not win this game, and it's bad. It's one of the worst things that's happened to me in my life, quite honestly. Other than losing my father and a few other things, like it's quite honestly for my family the worst thing that's happened. So we can never have that happen.
I think the majority of fans love that.
No way.
I think Ohio State fans love that.
What do you think his father's thinking about that?
Well,
Mark said, what the hell? I wanted to say, I wanted to say something else.
You mean I died and the worst thing that happened to you was losing to Michigan a couple
but
times?
Ohio State, Michigan means more than it is life or death.
Shocked he hasn't had Trayvon Henderson running steps this week for sliding at the 1 against Indiana.
Now, the flip side of it is Ryan Day can
now, is there
say
any part of you that now wants Michigan to win?
Well, I mean, I want Michigan to – I told you this off air. I want Michigan – I want that to be a one-score game going into the fourth quarter.
You imagine?
Just for
and we
Ohio
thought
State.
Urban Meyer was nuts.
Man, I'm telling you, if
He'd
that
be
game's
applying the just for men on the sidelines to be going gray.
The only thing I'll say about Ryan Day is it's easy for him to say those things now, given that Harbaugh's gone.
Speaking of Harbaugh, he is one of my favorite Thanksgiving quotes of all time.
Gobble, gobble turkey. You know?
What is gobble gobble turkey?
Just gobble, gobble, gobble turkey from Jive Turkey Gobblers, you know?
What?
Sounds like one of my children describing a Thanksgiving book.
Did you see, by the way, that Dave Portnoy at Barstool was one of the guys instrumental in flipping that quarterback?
Right, so how much money is this kid getting? Bryce Underwood,
like
number one ranked.
Yeah, but he's not going to probably get
So he
all of
decommits
that
from
money.
LSU, commits to Michigan. He's just down the road. In a shocking, just a wild, I feel like a 30 for 30 story, you're telling me one of the coordinators on his high school football team is Connor Stallions? Is this all true?
Is that case? I didn't see that. Is that the case? Of
we
course
get
it
part
is.
2 of that story then?
So how much money is he really getting?
Well, I mean, it's rumored between, like Mark said, 10 to 12 mil. The question will be, he'll be there 1 year, so how much of it is he actually going to get? But it's a huge chunk of change. Apparently, Dave Portnoy of Barstool went out. You know, he's rich and he's got rich friends, and there's this billionaire donor, and he's like, "Listen, we are going to go buy the best quarterback every year," and they bought the best. I mean, to outbid LSU. Come on.
It says, this is from Adam Gorney, and he says, Barstool's Dave Portnoy did a marketing deal with Bryce Underwood to flip him to Michigan. Oracle billionaire Larry Ellison ponied up a record $12 million. Tom Brady got on the phone with Underwood. This is now the craziest recruitment of all time.
Is this like up front? I mean, I hate to get too technical on the money here, but like, is this a $12 million signing bonus?
Well, that's what we don't know. Yeah, what are the parameters? I mean, this is a huge contract that I would imagine his lawyers
involved. You got to be there for at least 3 years. This is $12 million over 3 years, which is still an astronomical amount of money, but I don't know. Maybe softens my thoughts on it. I mean, what a game. Ohio State, Ryan Day's comparing his father's death to losing to Michigan, and Michigan's got a $12 million quarterback. College sports, baby.
Oh, that's where we are. I want to know how much he was supposed to make at LSU. I mean, I bet it was huge money. I mean, it's huge money at LSU. Boy, Brian Kelly, that's not good. That is not good.
Kevin's all smiling now.
I know he is. I was trying to give him an uplifting moment.
No. After last night's Notre Dame game and the Marcus Burton injury, I am on fandom watch. My heartbeat is rapid this morning thinking about Notre Dame losing to USC.
It's because you got a double espresso because you didn't know what you were ordering at Starbucks.
I just doused it.
Yeah, I figured you did. All right, coming up on the other side, our picks, who wins, Colts, Patriots, IU, Purdue. We'll do it next. Hour number 3 here on this Wednesday on The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
From Adam Sandler and from us, a very happy Thanksgiving, everybody out there. Safe travels. Does look like a hair dicey potentially coming up later today, and we really appreciate all of your loyalty throughout the year, tuning into us, whether it's via the stream, via the old terrestrial radio, or the podcast. Means a lot. So thank you to everybody out there.
Yeah, the YouTube as well. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm ready to go. It's a great week. It's, a lot of people off work except for sports writers. We just had Tom Dienhart on. We're going to have Zach Osterman. But it's a big week of football. It's a big week of basketball. IU has a big one. Are you ready to give your prediction for this week? Has your son given his prediction, by the way?
5 days
No,
out.
we got to get outdoors.
Okay.
It's an outdoor game. We got home late last night. Rosie had gymnastics.
Understandable.
So, yeah, we need that. I said this to lead off the show. It is kind of just a crazy show. I've always felt like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving because it's so damn busy. I mean, when we talk again on Monday, the Colts will have a game that they must have in all likelihood. The Pacers will play 3 games. Right now they've played 18. They'll play a 6th of their schedule here in the next handful of days.
The college football playoff's going to be a complete mess at some point.
Bucket game is 2 fan bases. It couldn't be on further ends of the spectrum. We'll get the IU side of it coming up with Zach Osterman here in 30. Notre Dame's got one of their biggest games in a long, long time for their program coming up with USC on Saturday. Again, you've got Indiana, Purdue, Butler all across the U.S. and just outside the U.S. here, continental-wise, with their respective college basketball teams. 6 state final games Friday and Saturday on our airwaves. It is a busy time. It's much busier than a show right around Christmas.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah.
The sports world around Thanksgiving is a far cry from what it is around Christmas. So this is kind of one of those shows I'm always like, man, I feel like we need 4 or 5 hours for it.
Monday, we need 8 hours to recap everything.
No kidding. I don't know. It's going to be probably a mix of good and bad on Monday, I would imagine. Hopefully it's not all bad. If everyone loses, if Indiana lost to Purdue on Saturday night, my God, I can't even imagine of doing that show. Where do you want to start? You want to start with
Tom
the Colts?
Dienhart laughed at me. He acted like he didn't hear my answer when I asked him.
I thought the most interesting thing from him was, the chance that Ryan Walters is not back is still very much on the table. It has felt like Twitter has told me the last 2 or 3 days, KB, and I kind of think you feel this way as well, that maybe he's for sure back, right? Or it's leaning that way. Tom feels like maybe it's 55, 45 maybe, but he thinks it's still very much on the table that they do a clean sweep.
What's the door cracked for? Like a 50-point loss to Indiana?
I have no idea. I would imagine.
And I say that in all seriousness.
No, by now, if you're Purdue, you know what you're doing, right? 1,000%. You know what you're doing.
You would think and hope.
Well, if losing to Indiana at this point, you're a 1-win football team. You don't expect to win that game. You could say don't lose by 40. Is that what's going to keep a coach around? Don't lose by 40 to Indiana. I don't know if that's going to be the case.
If he beats Indiana, do you give him a lifetime contract?
Well, I tell you, we'll talk about it here in a second. If I'm a Purdue fan, as bad as this year has been, the ultimate season for IU, you could ruin. And it's not going to happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be a close game. But that is your only hope that you can hold on to, that you would forever ruin Indiana's greatest season of all time. It would be the most amazing moment in the series history.
Kevin, who had Ryan Walters on the head coaching in the NFL?
Oh, that was Tom Pelissero from NFL.
That's right.
NFL Network.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was interesting.
What's better, and it probably tells you more of who you are as a person.
Okay.
What's a better win fandom-wise? Like if you're a Purdue fan, would you rather beat Tennessee in the Elite Eight, or would you rather ruin IU's greatest season in college football history?
Oh, man.
Again, it probably tells you more as who you are as a person.
Yeah. An older version of Andy Sweeney. Now
You're
I'm
going
old.
for the win Saturday night.
I'm old and grown up. I would go with the basketball going to the Final Four. They needed to go to the Final Four. I don't know. It backed up all of the Matt Painter, Zach Edey stuff, but a younger Andy Sweeney no doubt would have said Saturday night ruining Indiana would have been the best. No doubt, without a doubt. That happened when I followed Kentucky and Louisville. Kentucky went to Louisville and beat Lamar Jackson. And kept Louisville out of the Orange Bowl. So they kind of happened there, but this is different. This is college football playoff. This is totally different. This is not going to happen again to Indiana in a long time. You would imagine.
There's just nothing like good old sport rivalry, fandom, hatred.
I would still say Purdue basketball making the Final Four. That did a lot. They had to make the Final Four last year. If they didn't, we were going to look at them as a failure in some sort of way, as unfair as that would be.
Luke asked, does Indiana have the two oldest combined head coaches in men's basketball and football?
That's a great question.
Signetti, 63, Woodson, 66.
Oh, man, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Going through the Rolodex here, obviously Mac Brown and Hubert Davis.
That's what I was just thinking. That's exactly what I thought.
That's what I was going to go
with. Hubert Davis is pretty young.
Yeah, he's in his early 50s.
Gone now.
Yeah.
Hubert Davis is 54.
Well, I guess before.
Okay.
Yesterday, maybe.
Yeah, that would be a close one. I would have to look at that. Yeah, I mean, before, boy, you would have said maybe Alabama was Saban, but he's gone now. So
who are Kirk Ferentz and Fran McCaffrey?
That's a good one. That's a very good one. Yeah, Fran's got to be, late 50s? Something like that? Late 50s? Ferentz 60s? Early 60s? Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, that's probably the only one that really comes to mind for me. I don't know. Michigan State's got a young...
McCaffrey's 65.
Michigan State's got a young head coach, right? Jonathan Smith with Tom Izzo.
He's pretty young, so it wouldn't be Michigan State.
All right, let's give our picks. Let's start with Colts and Patriots. 2.5. It's kind of been the spread all week long. Am I missing something here? Have you guys seen it fluctuate at all?
No. It's 2.5. It's remained at 2.5. Over under 42.5. So low scoring game. In fact, I'm looking down the NFL. Besides Jets, Seahawks, this is the lowest over under we have. Jets, Seahawks, and Browns, Broncos.
23-13 Colts. First two-score win of the year. Patriots have, I would argue, more offensive line issues than the Colts. As shocking as that might sound, tons of penalties. Starting jobs galore up in the air. They've played 13 straight weeks just like the Colts. They're coming off an embarrassing performance against the Dolphins. I think there's a level of kind of what are you playing for at this point that could creep into it. If you're able to jump on them early, I think you can control it, even though the scoreboard might not indicate you're in a huge amount of control. 23-13 Colts.
I'll go next. Okay, so I'm going to go 19-16 Colts. I'm going to have them win. Maybe a few more points coming from the Patriots than I thought. I think what worries me in this game is what we've talked about, and that is the offensive line for the Colts. Is the offensive line going to be able to hold up? If it doesn't, that means Anthony Richardson has to do a couple Superman things. I think ultimately as well, we go back to that game in Germany last year. I think it mimics it a little bit to where the offense does just enough. I think you see that in my score. And this is a game where I am going to expect Gus Bradley's defense to show up. If they get burned by Drake May, Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, and a bunch of random wide receivers, obviously that's going to be a big problem. So I think they win. I think they cover. It's an elimination type game. If they lose and we come in here on Monday after a loss, what a disaster. I don't think it happens. 19-16, that's my final score.
Colts said heading into the Jets game, it was a gotta-have-it game. This is another gotta-have-it game. This is one you can't mess around with. Take care of business. Don't get caught looking ahead to the Broncos game. Colts snapped the streak at Gillette 20-16.
20-16. Do you think anyone on the Fan will take the Patriots? Do you think we'll be a clean sweep? I think we'll be a clean sweep today.
I don't know. I think Eddie Garrison told me his record's so bad he's trying to do the counter of it. He's like, yeah, you're 10-1 or 11-1 on your picks. I got to pick opposite you now to catch up.
Oh, he's trying to catch up?
I think it's long gone, Eddie.
Yeah, I would say, Eddie, it's
Kevin's kind of running away with it.
You got a month left in the season, big guy. I'm sorry.
Shane
I hate to tell you.
Steichen was a football player at UNLV. Anthony Richardson was 4 years old the last time the Colts won in Foxborough.
Wow.
7 straight losses there. Of course, one in Germany a couple of years ago on that end. Have you seen who is mimicking Anthony Richardson in Patriots practice this week?
I'm trying to think who the Patriots have that would mimic Anthony Richardson. I'm trying to think who
I feel like he was kind of like a Colin.
No.
Jacoby Brissett's as fast as me.
I was about to say I can outrun Jacoby Brissett. Who is it?
I believe Gerard Mayo said earlier this year he's the slowest black quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Did he say that? That's great.
I think
great
that was the exact quote.
I'm glad he said it, not someone else.
College football lore, Joe Milton.
Oh, Joe Milton, of course. He throws the ball 95 yards.
Right.
He just doesn't know where it's going to go.
I actually watched him play last year at
Sure
Tennessee,
you did.
Georgia.
Joe Milton, sure.
Fans were irate about him. So, yeah, I just, there's a little bit of me of like, again, should we play into any of this the week after the Lions game?
Right.
Again, the Colts, they did suffer a decent amount of injuries in that game, but, I can't go with New England.
Boy, if New England were to win this game, though, we would walk in here on Monday, and obviously we would dig the grave for the Colts. But not only that, I mean, you'd be questioning everything. Steichen, offensive line, AR, the entire thing. If they were to lose, I'm trying to think it'd be turnovers, perhaps. It would be the way that they lose. I mean, New England's just not good at anything. They're just not good at anything.
Richardson hasn't thrown a pick in 4 of his last 5 games. I mean, he's stayed away. Now, he has put the ball on the ground, a couple times with these fumbles. And I'm still waiting for the play where, he has 3 people on him, and he's trying to escape, and that turns into a turnover.
Right.
He is seemingly thrown an incompletion every single time out of that. Which it's it was almost grounding. Remember in the end zone on Sunday? So, when does that go the other way on that edge? Should we go popcorn? Should we stick with the NFL here?
Let's stick with the
real
NFL.
Quick, I did this math. It looks like Iowa indeed does have the oldest basketball and football coaching. McCaffrey, 65. Ferentz, 69. Nice. 134. Indiana, not far behind, though. 66 for Woodson, 63 for Cignetti. That's 129. North Carolina with Mac Brown and Hubert Davis, 127.
I would guess Notre Dame would have one of the younger than Micah Shrewsbury and Marcus Freeman.
Probably.
Well, I mean, Shrewsbury's now on the hot seat, so we'll see how long that goes. Hot seat. I'm kidding.
Idiot. That's the dumbest comment of the year.
I'm kidding. Well, I had to get it in there before the year ended. I'm running out of real estate.
Right now, I wouldn't take Notre Dame plus 30 tonight against Houston.
That's a bad matchup, right?
Without your point guard?
Yeah, it's a bad matchup anyway. By the way, did you see Kelvin Sampson got the #1 center in the country for next year?
And
dude's cleaning up.
And they really blew that late. Mark Sears,
they should have won that game.
Didn't make any shots against Purdue. He made all the shots.
That's a big win for Alabama because if it's a little bit like Duke. Duke lost in the Champions Classic to Kentucky, and then they lost last night to Kansas, and those are good losses. But still, you want to win at least one of those games. Alabama lost to Purdue. They didn't want to back that up with losing to Houston as well, right?
I would agree wholeheartedly. All right, easiest game for me in Week 13.
All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You going Cooper Rush?
3.5. Cowboys on Thanksgiving. No way. Cowboys are covering that.
I agree with you. That might be mine. Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
I cannot believe that I need more than a field goal win from Cooper Rush.
It's 3.5 now
to achieve that. Right. So I need at least 4. But I am. That, to me, is the easiest game to pick this week.
I mean, can you imagine that you're even talking about Cooper Rush?
No.
Yeah, can you imagine that that's the case?
Sickening.
Yeah.
What do you guys got? Easiest game?
That's actually mine.
Really?
Just because I think the Giants are a dead franchise. I think they're a dead franchise. The last few years, they haven't been a dead franchise. They've won some of these games. Last year, they won enough games. It was funny, the whole Tommy Cutlets thing, and they missed out on a quarterback. They wanted Drake May. They missed out on a quarterback because of it. I don't think it happens this year. I think the Giants' run defense is terrible. I'm with you. The Cowboys beat the Giants anyway. I think you're looking at a 30 to 13 type game.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a bludgeoning.
Mark?
I don't think the Giants know who their quarterback is yet. It's Wednesday. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be in 24
hours.
Aren't
they getting on a plane here soon?
They have to.
Easiest game for me, the Seahawks 2-point favorites at the Jets.
Interesting.
The Jets are done. Jets are done. Seahawks seem to be getting their mojo back a little bit.
You don't believe in the time zone?
No, I don't believe in that anymore. I
think
that's
kind
of gone away. No. Seahawks take care of the Jets. They officially put the final shovel of dirt on the Jets season.
I think that's a lot of heart there from Mark
Aaron
Dykton on that
Rodgers
thought.
is, refusing scans and everything like that.
I believe he tried to go back on that yesterday with old Patrick McAfee. Hardest game for me, AFC North.
Yep, it's got to be.
Boy, Cincy coming off the bye week. Pittsburgh got extra time to prepare. Pittsburgh is +3 at Cincinnati.
Yeah, that was mine. I'll pick another one, but that was going to be
Pittsburgh
mine.
Pittsburgh is getting 3 points. That seems like a no-brainer, but then I'm like, wait a minute. I've watched Cincinnati play a lot of football this year. They're desperate. Joe Burrow has been very good, as wild as that sounds given their record. I don't know where to go on that.
I know. If the Steelers lose, that'll be 2 in a row. That's one thing to think of. But doesn't this game, it screams that the Bengals lose this game like they've lost all these other games.
It just
by
screams
1
that
point.
For me.
They lose by 1 point, and that means the Steelers would cover the 3, right?
What do you guys got?
Okay. I will go the game. It's also at 1 o'clock. Chargers on the road. They're favored against Atlanta.
Yeah, that was a hard one for me, too.
I mean, to me, those were the two games where I'm like, okay, I'm getting a home dog in Atlanta. Do I think the Chargers are better? I do. But Atlanta, you win that game, you're really in control of the South. So I'll say the Falcons and Chargers, Atlanta, a 2.5-point dog. That might even grow going into next week. So those two games, to me, are the hardest to pick.
I'm going to the AFC South, Texans, Jaguars. Texans are 5-point favorites on the road against Jacksonville. But the way the Texans have played and C.J. Stroud has played, I don't really know which Texans team is going to show up heading into Jacksonville.
I wouldn't touch that game.
I would not touch
Jacksonville come off a bye
5
week.
points is a lot, especially the way the Texans have played. The Jaguars, I don't know what's going on with them. They stink for the most part, but the Texans have kind of played down to their competition, as of late. And so I don't really know what to do with that. So I'm avoiding that game at all costs.
Popcorn game is a sneaky Super Bowl matchup for me.
Okay.
Sneaky Super Bowl matchup.
I think you're going where I'm going.
Eagles-Ravens?
Ravens.
Oh, yeah, it's a big game. It's
just
big
a
game.
nice little under the radar. It's not Chiefs. It's not Lions. It's not Bills. But would you want to see either of those teams if you were in the AFC or NFC in the playoffs?
In fact, right now, if you made me pick, and I love Man Campbell and I love the Lions, if you said right now, who do you think makes the Super Bowl, I would go with the Philadelphia Eagles. The reason why Saquon Barkley is going to continue to make me personally miserable, okay, and they're mimicking a couple years ago with that offensive line just dominating the game. And they can just run the football. Brandon Graham, we didn't talk about that, got injured. We'll see what they do with that. But I think right now, besides Detroit, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are a Super Bowl contender, without a doubt. In fact, I think they could go in and win that game on Sunday. I do.
Guys, it's the sexiest game on the schedule, I'd say, of Week 13.
I just looked over my right shoulder and saw Greg Rakestraw, and all of a sudden I was cured of everything that happened in Notre Dame last night.
What's he doing in here? Is he taping something?
He's in the booth.
Now,
he knew you were down, so he had to come in.
It hasn't changed your opinion at all going to see that Notre Dame game here in the next month and a half or so after
he just calmed everything.
After the loss last night.
He can scratch my back like he did last year after the loss.
He's preparing for 36 broadcasts.
Citadel. I thought it was Samford.
What is it? Samford or the Citadel?
Last year. Yeah, he's got 19 broadcasts the next 3 days, and there he is.
You needed to cheer you up.
My popcorn game, it's going to be the night game on Thursday. Packers-Dolphins.
I like it.
It's going to be really cold out. The Packers haven't played their best football, and you're the Dolphins. You're in an elimination game. It's supposed to be super cold. I looked up the weather. It doesn't look like it's going to snow, though, on Thursday, which honestly is a bummer. It probably gives Tua and the Dolphins a little bit more of a chance to win, given that it won't snow. So I'm going to say that's my popcorn game of the week. If Miami, of course, we're still kind of talking playoffs here. If Miami were to win that game, they're right back at least in some sort of contention for the playoffs. And, the Packers are 8-3. If they win that one, they go to 9-3 without their quarterback playing the best football. So I'll go Green Bay and Miami.
I'll stick with Eagles, Ravens, but another one that's not too bad is Sunday night Niners, Bills. I think this is the last gasp for the Niners.
Is Purdy playing?
I think he is. So if they're going to have any chance of getting back in the playoff hunt, they need to show up. But it's also in Buffalo, and that crowd is going to be wild on a Sunday after Thanksgiving.
Boy, I tell you, the Niners, if they lose that game, man, I didn't think they were a playoff team.
I think that's it.
I mean, if they lose to the Bills, they still have Rams at Dolphins, Lions at Cardinals, and the Cardinals are, knocking as well. That's a big game. You're right, Mark. It's a big game.
Well, Purdue fans, if you have a $20 bill lying around, $20 money line bet to beat Indiana.
Yeah, what would it pay?
$480.
Whew. Might as well lay it down. Might as well lay a 10 spot down or a 20 spot down just to do it.
10 for 240, 20 for 480. I got Purdue covering.
No. Don't tell me, Kevin. Again?
Didn't they cover last week?
Okay.
Did they not?
Okay, that was Michigan State.
I'm only laughing because Mark's face. I know people in the YouTube can't see it. Mark's face, he had a literally terrible reaction to that.
I know you had a bad morning, but let's not make it a really bad morning. Come on. How many times have you been burned by them this year? 5?
3?
4?
3 or 4?
3. Just 3. 4 touchdowns. 28.5 points.
Kevin.
But boy, Signetti's going to want to score.
It's up to 29.
Touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to say Indiana covers. I was going to have a ridiculous score. I lowered it a little bit. I think you do get a late Purdue touchdown, 48-13. That'd make it a 35-point game. They would cover 48-13. That's my final.
No. Kurt Cignetti is pissed. He wants blood. He wants to make a statement. He said Purdue sucks. Indiana rolls 42-10.
So is that not motivating to Purdue? It's only motivating to IU?
Purdue hasn't been motivated all year.
Indiana's going to have to play. Let me ask you this. Does Indiana, and I know the committee may not look into these sorts of things, but they actually may. You talk about game control. If Purdue covers, I don't know, is that good enough for Indiana? I mean,
No,
Indiana needs to win by a score that we're talking about. Like, everyone's like, they're automatically in the playoff. Like, they can't win 30 to 17 in this game, can they?
And again, I think you and I kind of disagreed on this to start the show. I don't look at Indiana as this absolute lock right now. I mean, they're the final at-large team. Am I missing something? They're the final at-large team. The first team out, right, is Clemson. Clemson plays a top 20 team this weekend.
Yeah, they would need
Indiana
a lot of
plays
things.
The worst team in the Power Four.
I know. They would need a lot of things to go against them.
So that would be the question I would have right now. Now, again, college football chaos means what? Someone is losing. Notre Dame's going to lose to USC. Miami's going to lose to Syracuse. Tennessee's going to lose to Vanderbilt.
Right.
Alabama's going to lose to Auburn. Like, one of those will happen. Indiana would literally need all of that to go against them. But, yes, to your point, I do think it's important for Indiana to just roll Purdue. Because there's not a lot of games once we get to Saturday night.
No.
That game will be one of the more watched ones just to make sure, like, Indiana takes care of business. So, I don't view this as, like, a 10-point Indiana win would be a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If they won 31-17, the committee would look at Indiana and say, you barely beat a crappy Michigan team. You got hosed in the only game that mattered, and then you faced quite literally the worst team that you could face, and you only won by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. No, that would not get it done.
It would not. Like, I think that's everyone that talks about, wow, if you beat Purdue, you're good. You're going to make you have a 98% chance to make the playoff. But I think it's more. I think they need to win and they need to pulverize Purdue. I think gameplay matters to this committee. Eye test has mattered to this committee. Eye test has helped Indiana all season long.
Yeah, it's helped
all
Notre
season.
Dame.
Yes, it is. Notre Dame does have some wins, but eye test has helped inflate Indiana's thought process with the committee because they have beat the hell out of teams. 56-7, 47-10, 52-14, 77-3, 42-30. I mean, they've won a lot of games by huge margins. They need to get back to that. If not, you could look at the last 3 weeks and say, what the hell's happened to Indiana?
Shout out to Alex in the chat, by the way. He said, Kevin, Purdue covered because you didn't bet on them last week.
Can you imagine if I had that much power?
I mean, you want to do a show bet here that you're going to take Purdue in the points?
Listen, I'm staying out of this one. This is between you and Mark. I lose every show bet we take.
Mark has so much hatred towards me for this.
He's bothered by it.
I consider you a friend. I want what's best for you.
Well,
you continuing to double, triple, and quadruple down on Purdue and the points
Eve, Mark's
is not doing you any
that
favors.
He considers me a friend.
You need to learn a lesson, my friend. You need to stop getting burned.
How about you bring up some of my Colts bets? 11-1 on Colts bets this season.
I couldn't believe you were 11-1.
11-1.
That's
Green
impressive.
Bay's my only loss.
Is it really?
Well, we all
blame Gus Bradley. Yeah. And also you heard me for 5 days call Malik Willis the worst player in the NFL. Then he went out there.
That was quite the
And then he
quote.
went out there and had a super efficient game and won 16-10.
I forgot about your Malik Willis hatred that week.
I didn't know LaFleur was going to make him into some great quarterback. What are we doing?
All right, Zach Osterman live from the Bahamas joins us here upcoming. We'll certainly talk about Indiana, 2.5 hours away from tip against Louisville, but more on Kurt Cignetti's contract and the bucket game with him. Let's hit a morning check down before it.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. The Dogs return to action inside Hinkle Fieldhouse Tuesday, December 3rd against Eastern Illinois. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
All right, let's start Indiana basketball. Number 14, Indiana basketball. There in the Bahamas. They take on Louisville today. High noon, Indiana 2.5-point favorites. As for last night, you had Kansas over Duke. You had UConn losing. Again, they lost to Tad Boyle in Colorado. Auburn over UNC. Iowa State over Dayton. Alabama over Houston. Kentucky won. A&M, number 20 in the country, lost. Creighton lost again, by the way. They lost a couple games. We've talked about your Notre Dame game. We feel bad for you there. Memphis, there in Maui over Michigan State. But again, the big one today, high noon, it's Indiana and it's Louisville.
I don't really know if you guys genuinely feel bad for
No,
me.
I do.
Seen a lot of cackling and smiling whenever it's been brought up here. Inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight, double-digit favorite. The Pacers, 10-point favorite over the Trailblazers. Portland is very banged up. DeAndre Ayton, Scoot Henderson, questionable. No Donovan Clingan, Jeremy Grant, doubtful. We'll see if the Pacers can win 3 in a row for the first time all year. 7 o'clock tonight, 8 o'clock Friday, tree lighting game with the Pistons in town.
Yeah, Indiana 10th in the college football rankings because of all the different things. They're number 11. They would face Penn State in the 11-6. And like we talked about, coming up on Saturday night, it's IU and Purdue, with that one being nearly a 30-point spread.
A shout out to Kevin Wright, back coaching at Carmel. Certainly an iconic name here, and the last name when it comes to high school football ranks. Kevin Wright, after a stop at IMG with Tom Allen's staff at Indiana, he is now the head coach of Carmel again. And a rundown of what we got state final-wise: 11, 3, and 7 on Friday. Those are the start times. It'll be Adams Central and Linton in the 2A game. 4A game, East Noble and undefeated New Pal. The 6A game, for the first time, it's all HCC conference reps in that 6A state finals. Westfield and Brownsburg, a rematch from earlier this season. Brownsburg won that one. And then Saturday, the Class A game, North Judson and Providence, our only all-undefeated matchup. 3A, it'll be Lures and Heritage Hills. Certainly some history there from a state title appearance standpoint. And then the nightcap, it'll be Warsaw, who runs the triple option, baby.
Yeah, we can't wait.
And Decatur Central, that'll be the nightcap there. I believe Warsaw has 31 completed passes on the season.
Yeah, and by the way, just because of all the, we don't know when Indiana's going to play, for instance, win or loss today. We'll be updating that, the live shows, obviously, today, but also on all the different websites and social medias between us, IBC, and everybody
on
else.
Our stations, and I say that plural, sister stations probably for some of those games, because as Andy said, Indiana's final game of the Bahamas on Friday.
Yeah,
we don't know.
We have no idea. Between us, IBC, and Hank, obviously, we'll have everything covered. Let's take a break. He's in the Bahamas, right? Is Osterman there?
He
Good
is.
for him, living the life on a Thanksgiving week. Zach Osterman from the Star. He joins us next here on The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It'll never happen, but I've always wanted to go to one of these tournaments, like Maui. Now, obviously, am I going to win the lottery tomorrow? But I've always really wanted to go to, I don't know, for some reason, Maui's standing out, and then now that Indiana is in the Bahamas, I'm like, that would kind of just be fun to experience, I feel like.
I absolutely. I mean, it's expensive, but, it's a good Thanksgiving. You watch your team play some high-level basketball. I'm totally with you, 1,000%.
Gosh, I need to make that happen at some point.
Well, make it happen.
Man that is making it happen professionally right now. He is in the Bahamas currently. Zach Osterman, great work, as always, for the Indianapolis Star, joins us now. Zach, good morning and a happy early Thanksgiving to you.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Sorry, my just swallowed wrong, so my voice is a little
all good. Could you kind of give us a setup, lay of the land? Are we is this game? It's just ballroom H. Yeah, head down the hallway and turn left, and that's where Indiana is. I'm fascinated by the setup. I've never been to the Bahamas, never been to the Atlantis, so I have no idea what it is like. But could you kind of give us a little behind the scenes look at where Indiana is today at noon?
Yeah, so it's out in the Atlantis Resort, which is on Paradise Island, which is on the other side of the bay from Nassau. And to be honest, because obviously Indiana was here about 3 years ago for a foreign tour, and I'm guessing the arena is going to be a little bit more packed this time, probably more seating and things. But it's they've hosted this tournament now, I think for 13 or 14 years. So they've got it down to a science in terms of there's a whole wing kind of off one of the hotels where there's a series of ballrooms that can host big events. And the Imperial Ballroom is the one they reserve for games, and they've got a whole setup there. You walk down the hall through media center, press conferences, team rooms, and things like that. And then, the arena's a ballroom, but it's again, it's not, I remember a couple of years ago, IU women's basketball played in an MTE in a ballroom that there were some almost immediate concerns about the state of the court and things like that. This place is very professional about it and has kind of got it down to the science of how it hosts this event.
Zach Osterman with us from the Star on the Payless Liquors hotline. Do we know, can you give us an update? I did listen to the press conference yesterday. Trey Galloway, Gabe Cupps, you think both will be good to go? I know it's 3 games in 3 days.
I think Galloway will be. I think the question with Galloway is, does Indiana feel compelled to limit his minutes at all? Whether it's, maybe he plays one game, takes a day off and plays the other game, or it's more, he's playing more selective minutes each day. I think Cupps is close to a return. Mike Woodson said he's been practicing, which if we're parsing kind of the way Mike Woodson talks about injuries, that usually means the player's close to returning. Woodson kind of wouldn't commit to A, to return, or B, exactly how much he would be able to do, in terms of minutes if he comes back. But and again, just kind of parsing Woodson's words, I think Cupps will be available at some point in this trip. Ja'Kai Newton, I think, is the one that is probably still a little ways away due to the hamstring injury, and that's, in my experience, that's not super uncommon when you've dealt with a structural knee injury and you've had to kind of have that structure repaired. All the stuff that connects into the knee, kind of needs time to readjust, and so you pick up a lot of niggling injuries for a few months after that. I would guess Newton is further away from playing on this trip than Cupps is.
Zach Osterman from the Bahamas giving us a call here on this Wednesday morning in Indiana, Louisville, coming up noon today. By the way, if you're listening to that over on WIBC, Don Fisher back home for the bucket game. It'll be Austin Renner who does the women's game. He'll be on the call there if you hear a different voice for the Hoosiers. Zach, transitioning, and you were all over the numbers earlier this week on the Curt Cignetti contract. As you study that in depth, I thought the assistant coach pool stood out to me. Anything in particular stand out to you?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of the infrastructure we was talking about. We knew Curt Cignetti was going to be in line for a raise, and I guess, there probably comes a point at which, it's one extra million here or there doesn't feel like that much of a difference. I think the assistant coaching pool was big. The buyout number was unsurprising. That sort of 85 to 100% of remaining compensation pretty common with these, the big time coaching contracts these days. I did kind of dig a little bit more into that number. I think it's a little bit more. That $11 million, I don't think is reserved completely for assistants. I think we're also talking about support staff, quality control, recruiting staff. But I still think we're talking about Indiana having probably a top third, maybe even top quarter number in the Big Ten in terms of salary pool reserved exclusively for assistant coaches. I think we're talking about Indiana being in the same range with like Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, schools like that. And obviously, if you're Indiana, that's going to make you a lot more competitive in terms of trying to retain the coaches you want to retain. And if you can't retain them, because listen, some of these guys are going to be in demand here in the offseason, whether for coordinating jobs or maybe even head coaching jobs. If you can't retain them, then obviously replace them with quality hires.
Zach Osterman from the Star with us on the Payless Liquors Hotline. As for the game on Saturday night, IU Purdue, we've talked a lot about it today. Zach, 29 points. That's the spread right now. I don't see a way that Purdue can keep this close unless Indiana melts down. What do you think happened Saturday, and what did you make last night of Indiana being 10th in the rankings with the College Football Playoff Committee?
Yeah, that's for Saturday, I think. I'm with everybody else. I think that game's going to be defined a lot more by Indiana's sharpness and how does Indiana respond to its first loss of the season? How does Indiana respond maybe to, some of the growing criticism of its playoff resume and its playoff sort of worthiness? I think that I wouldn't be shocked if Purdue keeps it within the spread. That's a big number. I know these two teams are obviously on very opposite trajectories at the moment. The rivalry games are rivalry games. They tend to, kind of just be a little weird, and it's going to be cold, and it's a night game, and, again, you've got two teams coming at it from kind of different positions. So it'll be fun to make a little closer. But Indiana does need to make it, in the end, a comfortable victory just to kind of put to rest any doubts about sort of the strengths of Indiana's resume, which is its ability to dominate and control games with its but it's clearly favored. And I think, when you talk about Indiana's playoff position, it's a little tricky. They are, not quite the last team out, but they're very close to it. On the other hand, you've got a situation where it's hard to imagine three ACC teams all jumping them. I'm not really sure what the rationale is for ranking SMU ahead of Indiana in general. Indiana's got a better strength of schedule, a better strength of record. Indiana's loss is better. SMU might have a better wins. But, on balance, I think SMU's resume is weaker than Indiana's. But you're kind of splitting hairs and you're talking about 9 versus 10. And I think that it very much seems like the committee's kind of setting it up to reserve one place for the ACC champions, and then maybe one place if Clemson can beat South Carolina for Clemson. But it seems like that's going to be more likely at the expense of one of these 3-loss SEC teams. So, I would be kind of surprised if Indiana wins comfortably the way we think they will against Purdue if Indiana's on the outside looking in.
Zach, we appreciate it, man. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Enjoy the Bahamas. I know it's a super, super busy time of year for you, so thanks for making time for us this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Good job, too.
Zach Osterman right there. Apologies in the background noise, obviously. A lot going on there, I would assume, at the resort here on this Wednesday morning.
Sounds like he's at the buffet.
Busy Sounds like a lot of tables being cleared in the background
he's
there.
at the breakfast buffet.
Mm-hmm. They're bussing tables down there. I did think, again, SMU ahead of Indiana.
It's something to watch.
I think that's where maybe you and I disagree on this, Andy. That's what stood out to me of like, wait a minute. If SMU is ahead of Indiana, SMU is going to have a better, Cal is better than Purdue. Mm-hmm. That's who both those opponents play this weekend. And then SMU's in the ACC title game. Like, how much is their resume going to be hurt? And it all, to me now, centers on this. Will championship game losses matter? How
it did
much
last year.
Will they matter?
It did last year, but we were at 4 teams and not 12. 4 teams and not 12. It's a great point.
Why would any team want to make their conference championship game if they're going to matter?
I think the SMU thing is one thing to watch, just some of the ACC stuff. We talked about this earlier. I still think Indiana being ahead of Boise State is a good thing. Does that change at all? I think if it's a close game against Purdue, perhaps that could be a battle cry. And then for me, the Big 12 doesn't necessarily have to have someone in the college football playoff. It's most likely going to happen, but, with Colorado losing, everyone would have loved to have seen Prime. And then BYU, the last couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, couple losses, they're obviously have moved their way out of it. So it's Arizona State now is kind of carrying the flag for that conference. Does the Big 12, I don't think they get shut out, but the door has been opened for that to be a scenario that could happen. I go back to, if Indiana ever did get left out, and let's say they just blew Purdue out of the water, and they just won, you name the score, 55-7, if Indiana didn't make it and the Big Ten only got 3 in, that would buck the trend of what we've seen leading up to last night.
That's probably, I think, the biggest reason why I think Indiana will be in. There's no way the ACC and the Big Ten each get 3 teams.
I just can't see it. I just can't see it. And I will say this, Indiana's been helped by some of those SEC teams falling on their face. Ole Miss and Alabama falling on their face. And on top of it, Nick Saban not being there.
Well,
Nick Saban not coaching Alabama.
Like one of those 3 games that went their way last week, Ole Miss, Bama, A&M. If any of those 3 go the other way, Indiana's out right now. I mean, that's how big last week was for them.
Yeah, it was. It was. No, last week, and we probably didn't talk about it enough, last week was a very good, after they got blown out at 3 o'clock, everything else fell their way. And it did not have to happen. So we'll see what happens. Mark, I need to ask you, is it a freebie Friday on the pop quiz, even though it's a Wednesday?
Sure. Yeah.
Is that okay with everybody?
Why not?
All right, freebie Friday, 317-239-1070. We'll give you our final thoughts. Pop quiz, it's all coming up next.
Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
All right, before we get to the Pop Quiz, I think I've got this rundown right. Feel free to fill in any gaps here. From a viewing standpoint, listening standpoint here over the next few days. Again, today at noon, that's Indiana-Louisville over on WIBC. That's an ESPN tip from the Bahamas. Then you're going to get Pacers-Trailblazers tonight at 7. Tomorrow, you'll get all three of our major local college basketball teams. Indiana in the Bahamas, Purdue out in San Diego. That's a 3 o'clock tip. Butler in Phoenix. That is a 7 o'clocker. And then you'll get all three of them again on Friday. We don't know tip times necessarily for those, but you'll get all three again. Friday, the Pacers are at 8 o'clock with the Pistons in that tree lighting game. Obviously, we've got our state final games starting on Friday, all the even classes. Okay, let's move to Saturday.
I'm looking at Scotty right now who does all this, and he's breaking out in hives.
I hope he's nodding his head. Saturday,
so far, so
odd
good.
Classes, 11, 3, and 7.
Yep.
You got the bucket game, the night game, the first ever bucket night game, 7 o'clock. Notre Dame USC is a 3:30 kick for those wanting to cheer for Notre Dame like me, or if you're an IU football fan against Notre Dame. And then Sunday, Colts, Patriots, 1 o'clock. Our coverage begins at 10. The Pacers are at 3 o'clock, right? Sunday in Memphis. That is Zach Edey. And that will be on this station, and Colts will transition to Hank. Colts will be on Hank FM 97.1 all day long. I think that covers
You did
pretty
a pretty
much
good
everything.
job there. You did a very good job. Scotty's not scolding you, shaking his head. You did a very good job there. Keep checking our social medias. We'll have it up. But basically, if there's something happening this weekend, we'll have it on our station.
Yes, again, the Fan or again, Hank FM has you covered on that end. All right, Andy Sweeney, a number. Freebie Friday for the pop quiz, a short pop quiz today.
Yeah, I haven't read all of it. Let's see how we can do. After yesterday's debacle, I'm kind of worried to say whether it's an easy or a difficult pop quiz. Mark, let's do caller number 3 today. Caller number 3.
Adam.
Hello, Adam.
Good morning. How are you today?
Adam, your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
I would probably say smoked brisket.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. See, that's a man doing it the right way.
Now I can get behind this.
Yeah, there you go.
Is this a family tradition? Is this something you instigated? This is absolutely outstanding.
It would be a family tradition. We don't do the typical turkey. We aren't big fans of turkey in our house, so we do brisket.
God, I love it. Adam, can I come over? Do you have any Thanksgiving? I guess maybe you call that a hot take. Do you have any hot takes on the Thanksgiving meal?
No, we do traditional sides, but we just prefer to do something different as the main course.
I'm all in.
Brisket's good. Briskets can be a little tricky, though. It's not as easy of a cook as a turkey. Right, Adam?
No, it definitely needs low and slow and well-seasoned, but I think it tastes better than turkey.
Sure it does.
I am all in
no doubt
on
about
that. Adam, happy Thanksgiving, sir. Thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. Andy Sweeney, go right ahead.
All right, let's go on this Freebie Friday/Wednesday. Number 1, the Pacers host the Portland Trail Blazers tonight at the Field House. Tonight's game will be the 101st meeting between the two teams. Scotty loves these questions. Who leads the all-time series? It's not
I'm
close.
gonna go with the Pacers.
You sure, Adam?
No, that was just kind of like a trick. We're going to go with the Trailblazers.
There we go.
IU 10th in the college football rankings. Who would the Hoosiers play if the playoffs began today? Tennessee, Penn State, Georgia, or Notre Dame?
Penn State.
There we go. Question number 3, where will the season's college football national championship game be played? South Florida, North Texas, Atlanta, New Orleans.
New Orleans.
It's Thanksgiving. You got to help them out a little bit, right?
Yeah, come on.
How about another
that's
NFC
not the answer.
South home?
How about South Florida?
How about another NFC South home?
I'll give you a hint. This place has a Chick-fil-A in the stadium that never gets used on Sundays, but will get used for the national championship game.
recovering from what I think my answer was Atlanta, Georgia.
There we go.
Yeah, you got there eventually, Adam. All right, 49th birthday to one Adam Vinatieri, right? No. Oh, the other guy. All right, happy 49th birthday to the other dude who kicked for the Colts in the 2006 Super Bowl winning season. It was not Adam Vinatieri. Who was his injured replacement for 3 games? A long lineage of kickers in this family.
What are the options?
Yeah, I thought Scotty was pretty sick for not providing options. I would have guessed Matt Stover. Was he the other Super Bowl year, Scotty? His brother Bill tore his ACL one time hopping around like...
I was going to ask which one did it.
Like I do when I attempt to work out.
Let's go something Grammatica.
Works for me.
Grammatica.
Didn't they have a third brother, like Santiago or something?
Oh, was it? So it was Bill that injured himself?
I think it was
that
Bill
who it was?
For the Cardinals, is that right?
I'm pretty sure you're right, poor SOB. All right, quickly name the 2 teams playing in the Maui Invitational Championship
He's got to
game.
get both right.
He's got to get both.
It will be Kansas and Auburn.
Oh, man.
There's so many damn tournaments now. I have no idea who's it. Besides Maui, I have no idea the names and who plays in what.
Adam, if I were running the show, I would have given you that. But Scotty, both of them? Those games tip at like 2 a.m. in the morning.
Kevin knows he's going to watch them.
I was about to say that's been the theme of the show.
But you know what was so sad last night is as the Notre Dame game progressed, I tried to flip over to Maui, and Maui was over.
Yeah, that's how late you were.
Unbelievable. Memphis and Auburn. He got all the others right.
Good enough. All right, good job, Adam.
Great, though.
Well, everyone have a good Thanksgiving, man. You hit both families. I know Mark's going up to northern Indiana. Are you both families in one day?
We'll dabble in both.
Okay.
A lot of sport viewing around it. Gosh, I need Notre Dame to win on Saturday.
I know you do.
Oh, I hate USC.
It's nut-cutting time now.
I'm nervous.
You got to win this
Everybody
one.
have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Safe travels.
Have a good one. Long day here. Have a good weekend on The Fan.
Gobble, gobble, turkey. You know?
What is gobble, gobble, turkey?
Just gobble, 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 turkey from Jive Turkey Gobblers, you know?